Chapter 1300. Scarlet Manor, a lord's room. On the plush sofa next to the fireplace, Meritus sat on one side of the sofa with a dull look. Black Goat Sally was completely lying on the sofa by using her legs as a pillow. She was enjoying the pleasure of her body and mind. Occasionally she would fiercely bite Mary's thigh. Han Dong had already returned from the city and was observing the tomb area that was being expanded by the windowsill. Sally, that guy really makes people uncomfortable. Staying beside Eugene would make one smell an extreme stench. But staying beside Aslan would make one feel an evil from the bottom of one's heart. What's the background of this guy? Sally slowly answered the question through a mouth that had grown out of her cheek. The difference in the polar circle is very big. The South Pole where Eugene was located was an invasion point. As a result, the ancient race was almost extinct. A large amount of technology was lost with the death of the ancient races higher up. The once prosperous and glorious Meat Mountain City had now become a waste dump. But the North Pole where Aslan was located was different. The final North Continent in ancient times was once recognized as the core of this planet. Many of the old Wangdu had set foot on this continent and even lived there for a long time. When the world cataclysm ended, a large area of the final North Continent sank, and the disputes of the old kings came to an end. However, the treasures buried deep in the North Pole still existed. Compared to the South Pole that was like a garbage dump, the North Pole could be considered as a land of treasures. Other than the title of Prime, Aslan was also known as the final North Continent's orphan. The information about how he was born was not confirmed, but there were many bloodlines of the old kings mixed in his body. With his uniqueness, the Polar Circle Force had been established in the North Pole. He basically inherited all the wealth left behind by the final North Continent. This person is absolutely selfish. Don't have too much interaction with him, and try not to have any conflicts of interest with him. Personally, I hate this guy more. Han Dong nodded. When he was observing the huge iceberg, he could also see that there were many forces behind Aslan and even many old kings. Han Dong took the opportunity to change the topic. More annoying. Seems like there's an existence among the 10 Prime that you hate more, Sally? Is it green? No. It's another female life form. That woman is very dangerous. You must call me when you meet her. When Meritus heard this, she immediately thought of a famous figure in the hybrid demon circle, a very dangerous female individual. She even had a certain connection with the Toad clan. Is it the one living in the depths of the Dreamlands? Looks like little sister Mary is also very clear about this. That's right, after all, you Toad demons are part of the outer circle of the Dreamlands. However, little sister Mary must have only heard rumors and never seen the real person, right? Next time, when Han Dong goes out of the city to welcome him as a bishop, let's go together. Meritus had heard horror stories about the Dream Woman since she was a child. As a result, she had never dared to approach the depths of Dreamlands, or rather, most of the Toad demons did not dare to approach. On a small island near the west coast of the English mainland, the lush, primitive jungle was preserved here. Other than the influence of the eternal night, there was no other form of pollution. There was a group of special humans living here. They were all women and kept the most primitive and native clothing. Only leaves covered the important parts of their body. On their heads, they wore a petal mask carved out of wood. Currently, thousands of islanders seemed to be guided by some kind of miracle. They all gathered in the center of the island and fell into a state of deep sleep in a unique way. The bodies of the sleeping witches were stacked on top of each other like a small mountain. In their sleep, their consciousness was pulled by an invisible force and was led to the perfect world that they had been seeking all their lives. It was equivalent to the heaven that Christians sought. Dreamlands. Their consciousness would allow them to live forever in the Dreamlands, and their bodies in the real world would be the foundation that connected the Dreamlands to reality. Creak, creak, soft and tender roots grew from the bottom layer of the witches' bodies. These roots would penetrate the upper layer of the witches' bodies and stimulate the growth of more plant. Intertwined, 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 finally, with the stacked witches' bodies as the foundation, a flower about 100 meters high grew. This spectacle on the island could be seen from the west coast dozens of nautical miles away. The flower bud bloomed. A female with a gentle and beautiful body crawled out from within. Different heights, different positions, different vision, different brain. Even if one looked at this female at different times and in different places, they would get different visual feedback. But no matter what kind of feedback it was beautiful for the viewer. Ah, how long has it been since I came to reality? The human body is really not easy to use. I don't know why the Lord Grey Matter set such a rule. Well, everyone needs to move around London as a human. This kind of role-playing game should be very interesting. Maybe I can meet the human that I like. The woman still had half of her body in the flower. Looking in the direction of the city of London from his present height, he was surprised to see a startling spectacle. Above London, the thick fog was suddenly dispelled by something from the sky. More than 10 meteorites emitting brilliant light were descending at an extremely fast speed. Boom! When the meteorites hit the ground, the sky was full of light. Even she could feel a faint tremor from where she was. It seems that everyone is early. I have to hurry. The female creature still embedded her lower body in the flower. The 100-meter-high witch flower was used as a carrier. The emerald-green tentacles and roots slowly detached from the ground, carrying the huge flower and the female creature embedded in it toward London. At the same time, the city of London sounded a special alarm because of the meteorite landing. Including the surrounding villages, they all set up barriers to avoid the sudden meteorite disaster as much as possible. Very fortunately, these meteorites did not hit any village, and the impact point was at least more than 1,000 meters away from London. It was like a planned fixed-point landing. The scattered meteorite fragments were not inanimate objects. They immediately changed. Metal tentacles grew out from the cracks of the rock. In half a minute, they gathered on the west side of the London basin to form an alien hybrid demon force. The leader was a red-haired young man who had completed the anthropomorphic transformation. The young man's chest was a hollow structure with a rotating red planet suspended in it. Chapter 1301. I'm Bishop Nicholas of the Church of Evernight in London. Welcome to the party. Mantis demons with metal tentacles walked out of the crater in the meteorite. Han Dong led the Church of Evernight members to welcome them. When his gaze landed on the red-haired youth, Han Dong could feel a powerful and even endless energy. When he tried to spy with his demonic eye, the dazzling energy light almost occupied his entire field of vision, rapidly depleting the demonic eye's energy. Especially when he spied on the red planet on the youth's chest, the intense light forced the demonic eye to automatically shut down. If Hominoid Hope was a humanoid nuclear bomb, this person was a humanoid nuclear power plant. In addition, this red-haired young man's appearance was relatively ordinary. His rough skin was covered with connective tissue that resembled lunar craters. Seeing that Han Dong had come to welcome them on behalf of London, the red-haired youth politely introduced himself. The 10th Prime Essence, King's Star, Vader Cousins. This time, I'm under orders from the main star and other superiors to head to London to provide war support. May I ask, do you have any lodging or venue requirements for staying in London? Vader hurriedly waved his hand and refused. There's no need to arrange accommodation for us. We've already made a special plan to stay in London in advance. We need to make a special request to our mother. With that said, a rock letter was handed to Han Dong. A magma seal in the shape of a planet landed in the middle of the envelope. Mother has already instructed that I'll be the one to decide on any matters related to foreign aid. At the same time, I also have some authority over London's land deeds. Can I check the contents of this letter? Of course. When Han Dong opened the letter, he was immediately shocked by its contents. Keywords: London astrophysical body. Han Dong also discovered that there wasn't a single mythical body among the mantis demons behind Vader. I really can't make up my mind on this matter. Please give me 10 minutes. I'll immediately go and ask my mother for her opinion. Han Dong used spatial means to instantly disappear in front of everyone. Red-haired Vader sniffed the spatial substance, and his eyes shone. Void. Why do the dark creatures in London have such a characteristic? It took only 3 minutes for Han Dong to tear open a similar spatial tunnel and return to Vader. Your application has been approved by my mother. The enchantment over London has been temporarily activated. Please begin your plan. Thank you. Vader's right arm extended vertically toward the sky. A red ray of light shot out from his palm and pierced through the clouds, transmitting a kind of cosmic signal to the deep space. A dark, gloomy celestial body capable of causing catastrophic destruction broke through the atmosphere and hovered above the city of London. The celestial body's diameter was about half the size of the city of London, and the pressure it gave off was extremely strong. As the celestial body hovered, some of the active volcanoes on the surface began to erupt, and the tectonic plates move. From afar, it looked like a few red eyes had opened on the surface, observing the situation in London and its surroundings. A mythical body in the shape of a planet. This is too exaggerated. Even Han Dong was dumbfounded for a few seconds. Sheep and icebergs were beyond the scope of what they had just seen. In the letter, the 10th Origin wrote that the hybrid demon forces he brought would all reside in this celestial body, waiting for the London game to begin. Before heading to the celestial body, red-haired Vader asked out of personal curiosity, "Bishop Nicholas, you should be very familiar with Big Brother Pope, right? The spatial technique you used just now concealed an extremely rare void attribute." Vader addressed Pope as Big Brother, which showed that they had a good relationship in private. This made things difficult for Han Dong. "I've only met him once. My understanding of the void is very shallow, and I'm not qualified to go to the real void. I can't be compared with a void origin like Pope." After a brief exchange, Vader led his forces and flew toward the celestial body. Han Dong stared at the huge celestial body above London with a helpless expression. It's easier to talk to this 10th Origin. Maybe there's a chance to win him over. I didn't expect him to be in an alliance with Pope. Since that's the case, there's no other way. Because of the irreversible antagonistic relationship between Pope and Grimm. Since Han Dong had chosen Grimm, everything that had anything to do with Bop would be cut off. Just as Han Dong was about to leave, a strange feeling arose. A strange feeling rose in Han Dong's heart, and his intuition led him to look at the dark forest to the west. Why does the forest feel like it's growing quickly? Is that a flower? As the huge flower exited the forest, Han Dong vaguely saw that there seemed to be a woman standing among the stamens at the top. At this moment, Han Dong sensed that something was amiss. The church members following behind him also turned their gazes to the top of the flower and stared at the woman's body. A beautiful, happy, and even excited expression appeared in the church members' eyes. Even their bodies began to tremble. Regardless of gender, the situation was the same. Realizing that the situation was not right, Han Dong immediately opened his mouth and laughed. The sound of crazy laughter reverberated among the crowd, forcibly pulling the church members' consciousness back to normal. Even so, some of the teachers still couldn't extricate themselves and wanted to express the most primitive love for the female life that was about to come. Could this be the person Miss Sally was talking about? By the time Han Dong had dealt with the emotional teachers, the huge flower was already standing 100 meters away. The woman at the top walked down the stairs made of flower spots in an extremely elegant manner. Her jade feet landed about 10 meters in front of Han Dong. "Helen Hilbert, Lord Bishop, you can just call me Helen. I heard your conversation with Vader outside just now. I'm very happy to meet you. The woman took the initiative to extend her arm and tried to shake Han Dong's hand. A few of the church members who had calmed down couldn't hold it in anymore. Their long black tongues kept moving in circles on their faces. They wanted to kneel and lick the woman's outstretched hand. It's my pleasure. However, Han Dong's face was calm. When he shook the woman's hand, he even had a nauseating feeling. Unlike the others, Han Dong, who had the brand new magic eye, could clearly see the original form of this mysterious original form. It was a form that made Han Dong a little uncomfortable. Skull. It was a skull the size of a fingernail. Plant hair grew on the skulls. There were tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of skulls connected together to form the woman's slender body. The shape of each skull was different, coming from a different creature. Her body would reflect the situation of the viewer according to the corresponding skull, projecting the most beautiful image. Unfortunately, this ability was ineffective on Han Dong. Because of this, the woman's various seemingly elegant movements, coupled with the delicate female voice produced by the different skulls rubbing against each other, almost broke Han Dong's defense. Chapter 1302. Bishop, I can smell the scent of dreamlands on you. While holding hand, the woman leaned forward and moved her face close to Han Dong's arm, sniffing the surface of his arm. This kind of intimate action almost made the disciples cry with desire. Han Dong was in a completely different state of mind. He suppressed the nausea in his heart and allowed the fingernail-sized skull and the rotten vines to scratch his arm. I've been to Nkei before and obtained the means to enter Dreamlands through the Bufo's blessing. What a coincidence, I live in Dreamlands, and my forces are all on standby in Dreamlands. If you have time, you can follow me to the depths of Dreamlands at night. The beautiful scenery and the company of this little girl will definitely satisfy you. Also, I have a special request for coming to London. Because it involves a special force transfer, I need to borrow about 100 living bodies from you, Bishop. The followers behind you seem to be very willing to do so. The confidence on the woman's face seemed to be telling Han Dong that no one could refuse her request. Han Dong retracted his arm and replied apologetically, I'm sorry. I'm only responsible for welcoming and providing a suitable place to live. I have no right to control the lives of the Dark Inhabitants. Besides, whether it's your forces or the Dark Inhabitants here, they are all participants in the game of London. There's no need for such a pointless waste. Seeing Han Dong's rejection, the fingernail-sized skull immediately began to rub against each other, increasing the invasiveness of her mind. It let out a series of incomparably seductive sounds. Can I ask the bishop to respond to my request like how you treated Vader? There's no need. Miss Helen, please think of a way to transfer your forces out of Dreamlands. When the time comes, I'll be responsible for your entry into the city and accommodation arrangements. If not for the fact that he was the ambassador of London and had to consider the development of the relationship between the hybrid demons and humans, Han Dong would have already lost his temper. This woman had invaded his mind the moment they met. She even asked for 100 dark inhabitants. It was really infuriating. Sigh. Bishop, you're really strict. It should be fine if I go in alone. When I find the opportunity, I will transfer my forces over from the Dreamlands. Facing Han Dong's direct rejection, Helen wasn't angry. Through the combination of skulls, she had an evil smile on her face. According to her, she seemed to be secretly looking for a physical body in London. Of course, but Miss Helen, please strictly abide by the relevant rules of the City of London. If we find that you have violated any rules, I, or even your mother, will personally deal with you. Then I won't bother you any longer. I'll look for a place to stay in London myself. Wait. Han Dong grabbed Helen, who was about to leave. I can't let you in directly yet. Miss Helen's mental influence through the skull has seriously violated the current rules of the City of London. Since we are currently outside the city, I will not pursue the matter. I hope that Miss Helen can take the initiative to deactivate this ability, or cover your body with sealed clothing to prevent this kind of spiritual invasion from happening in London. Helen stared at Han Dong's magic eye in amazement when she heard Han Dong mention the keyword skull. No wonder you are not affected by my external influence at all. It turns out that you have a pair of eyes similar to Eugenius that can see through my true form. What do you think? Do you think my true form is beautiful? As she spoke, the skulls that made up the woman's body moved quickly with the rhythm of her body. Combined with the twisting of the plant vines, it displayed an unusual beauty. Such a question made it difficult for Han Dong to answer. If his answer was not beautiful, Han Dong's intuition told him that he might touch the other party's reverse scale and bring about great trouble. If he answered that it was beautiful against his will, it would also bring about a series of troubles. Han Dong even had a vague feeling that he would be pestered by this woman. At the critical moment, a spatial fluctuation came from the side. The spatial exit appeared in the shape of a wide-open toad's mouth. A black sheep's hoof stepped out, and at the same time, a breath of fertility spread out, stimulating the congregation behind Han Dong, freeing them from the state of being immersed in beauty. At the same time, a wool coat was thrown over. Helen, you still don't like to wear clothes. This coat is a meeting gift. I believe you are very clear about the current importance of the City of London. Don't show off your beauty here. Once you break the rules of the City of London or alarm your mother, your gaming qualifications will be forcibly revoked, and the title of the Sixth Origin may also be revoked. Wow. It's actually Sister Sally. I didn't expect you to come so early. It seems that you have a good relationship with this young bishop. Of course, I know the importance of the City of London. Since the bishop's attitude is very clear, I will also follow the rules here. I will use a more friendly method to transfer the life of the Dreamlands. As for the accommodation, I will solve it myself. Goodbye, Sister Sally and Lord Bishop. When leaving, Helen took the initiative to leave a kiss on the back of Han Dong's hand. She put on a wool coat to cover her body and not let her beauty affect the residents of the City of London. With a giant flower as a mount, she took root in an open space in the City of London. Miss Sally, this woman is really troublesome. The Sixth Origin, beauty with 1,000 faces, Helen Silber, is also known as the Dream Lady. You have already seen her characteristics. The skulls hanging all over her body can reflect the love and desire deep in the heart of any individual. As long as you look at her, you will fall in love. Every dream will deepen your longing for her. Because it is impossible to obtain in reality, most will be addicted to dreams. Through the hypnosis of the strong, they will spend most of their time in dreams with the fictional dream lady. In the end, their consciousness will be dragged into the depths of the dreamlands and become food for the plant. The physical body that is left in reality will be used by the dream lady as a bridge to connect to reality. Beauty, I was going to throw up if you didn't come. Han Dong deliberately made a vomiting gesture, and Sally couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. Haha, if you had closed the magic eye, you might have taken the bait. Be careful, Helen's true terror lies not in her external beauty. It is her inner beauty that has yet to be exposed. There is something very terrifying inside the countless skulls. Han Dong nodded and memorized all the information about Helen. Now, the only thing I haven't seen is the Ninth Origin essence. You have already met Pope and Hyde? Yes. They have made it clear that they are not on the same side as me. What a pity. Of course. As long as you have the slightest relationship with Grimm, Pope will ostracize you. Han Dong shrugged. It seems that the only origin I can rope in are you. Oh right. What kind of person is the Ninth Origin? What is his personality? Is it possible to rope him in? Sally revealed a strange smile as she answered Han Dong's question. You're right. His personality is not bad, and he is not annoying. But you probably won't rope him in. Why? I will keep you in suspense for now. You will naturally know when the time comes. Chapter 1303. In London. Helen didn't dislike the coat from the Black Goat. This special cashmere coat could accurately cover every part of her body according to her figure, suppressing her external appearance. Her external appearance came from her nature. If she actively restrained it, it would consume her own energy. In the dreamlands, she always maintained a naked external state. Even if she covered her body with a coat, the dark residents on the same street as her still couldn't help but look over. Even if they couldn't see her face, they still wanted to talk to her. It was a natural influence, but Helen's expression wasn't very good. I didn't expect that there would be someone who rejected me as soon as I arrived. It made me feel bad. I have to vent the negative emotions suppressed in my body. Otherwise, I will accidentally violate the rules here. If it's an individual's subjective suicide, it shouldn't have anything to do with me, right? Or go to the depraved area in London and have a good time. Just as Helen was about to find a place to have a good time, a chill suddenly came from behind her, forcing her to wrap the cashmere coat tightly around her body. The skull that made up her body creaked. A cold, pale flame ignited in the alley beside her. White shirt, black trousers. The flame-haired youth with one hand in his pocket and the other playing with a flint slowly walked out. Helen, long time no see. Are you interested in coming to my place? I can provide the body you need. Isn't this Aslan? No wonder it's so cold. Although Helen's words were friendly and flirtatious, her instinct forced her to take a step back. At the same time, she didn't directly respond to Aslan's question. If it wasn't necessary, she didn't want to have anything to do with Aslan. At this moment, a foul smell wafted in the air. The green-haired eugenist also appeared in the alley. The countless eyes hidden under the green hair could see through Helen's body structure, making her very uncomfortable. Aslan continued to speak. Please allow me to take a moment to tell you about the overall situation in London. The Human Expeditionary Army has fully settled in. According to my recent observation, the human forces have become a force to be reckoned with because of fate. There are several powerful existences within. The specific situation will be discussed later. First, let's talk about the current situation among the primordial substance. The Evernight bishop who welcomed you outside the city gate was called Nicholas. He was the abnormal being who won the London game together with the lunatic. According to the information provided by Eugene, the man was related to the lunatic to a certain extent. At the same time, he had established an alliance with the Black Goat and the Hominoid. This was the first force. From your conversation just now, I believe that the other party's attitude is very clear. Miss Helen shouldn't be interested in them. Also, not to mention Pope, Hyde's relationship with him was unshakable. As for the issue of Vader's celestial body, he would definitely form an alliance with him. This was considered the second force. Bop's relationship with you doesn't seem to be that good, and I believe that you don't want to get along with someone as smart as him. I plan to join forces with Eugene and you, Helen, to form a third force to maintain the overall balance. As for the lunatic, he would most likely act on his own like before. Mudball is too troublesome and difficult to control. I don't plan to rope it in. The other factions should be the same. There's no need to fill themselves with an unstable bomb. What do you think, Miss Helen Silber? It sounds very good, but it's still early. I want to think about it for a while. Okay, you can come directly to the Ice Mountain to find me when the time comes. Aslan learned how humans expressed their love and blew a kiss to Helen. However, he himself wasn't affected by Helen's appearance at all. He disappeared into the dark alley with Eugene. Helen didn't stay for long. She wrapped her coat tightly and headed in another direction. Not long after, the second prime, Book of Wisdom, Abop Mendar, and the eighth prime, Honorable One Hyde Darius, came to London together. Under Han Dong's arrangement, the two of them stayed in the apartment next to the British Library. Although his words were very polite, Bop didn't look at Han Dong for more than a second. The whole time, they just had a very ordinary relationship of host and guest. Similarly, he felt Bop's aura. The red-haired Vader, who had a red planet floating in front of his chest, quickly descended from the celestial body in the sky. He discussed cosmology with Bop in the library. Seeing this, Han Dong tactfully left the library. In this way, only Grimm and the mysterious 9th Prime were left of the 10 Prime substances. There was 1 month and 13 days left before the opening of the London game. Even though a large-scale battle was about to begin, the mining projects in London were still proceeding in an orderly manner. The Humstein mine was the largest mine in the dark forest. It was 500 meters deep underground. Only dark residents with high-level miner credentials could work in the deepest area. They could mine ore of extremely high purity, which could be used as auxiliary materials for special buildings and high-level equipment. The income of these miners was comparable to that of the upper middle class in London. Today, there was an unpleasant smell floating in the deepest part of the mine. Not only that, the cracks in the ground were also bubbling, overflowing with a kind of light gray turbid liquid. Standing for a long time without moving would cause the soles of one's shoes to be tightly stuck. When the miners wanted to report this strange matter to the outside world, all of their means of communication failed. Some kind of terrifying thing was lurking here. When the supervisors realized that something was wrong, they went to the lowest level. The light gray bubbling liquid covered the bottom level like a swimming pool. The remains of the miners were floating on the surface. Smelling the festering smell in the air, the most primitive and evil feeling swept through the miner's heart. Just this feeling alone almost caused him to die on the spot. Holding his breath and concentrating, he lit all the candles on his body and tried to escape in the darkness. Whoosh! In an instant, more than a dozen candles were all extinguished for some reason. Soft, sticky tentacles with sharp thorns slowly condensed from the gray mucus. It was between liquid and solid, converging into a huge and terrifying mouth. The mouth corresponded to a chaotic abyss filled with corpses. The supervisor was so frightened that his lower body was spurting black liquid, and his will collapsed. Just as it was about to finish devouring, the big mouth suddenly stopped, reassembled into a tentacle shape, and retracted the liquid. The mucus that filled the mine seemed to have regained consciousness. It began to condense, compress, and shape. It seemed to want to take the shape of a human. Every time it condensed, there would always be more swollen hyperplastic tissue. It could not be defined as a human. At this time, an irregular eye grew out from the center of the mucus and stared at the mine's supervisor. Without waiting for the other party to react, the mucus was immediately injected from the mouth and instantly occupied the supervisor's body. This was used as a template to maintain the human form. For safety's sake, silk-like tentacles grew out from under the skin, sewing all the joints of the body that could collapse at once. The whole body looked like a sutured corpse. This should be able to last for a while. When I get to London, I must find a better container. What a troublesome rule, what a troublesome game, what a troublesome life. Chapter 1304. There's a large-scale mining accident in Humstein mine and there's no news? A nearby search and rescue team went to the mine, but there's no news either? In the Scarlet Mansion, Han Dong had 2 legs of different styles on his body. A Evernight instructor floating outside the window was reporting the sudden situation outside the city. Yes, it happened suddenly. Lethoz has something to do, and he hopes that you can handle this matter. After all, you've been handling the handover matters outside the city recently. Okay, I'll go take a look. How many people do you need to bring? Not for now. I'll bring my own people. Han Dong was a little confused. As the Bishop of London, he naturally knew the importance of Humstein mine to London. Such an important mine had 3 atavistic bodies taking turns to watch over it. The top miners working in the deepest part of the mine were all mature atavistic bodies. Unexpectedly, there was no news at all. At first, Han Dong even suspected that the Black Tower's invasion had come early. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was not very likely. When it came to matters involving plane invasions, the old kings would definitely be the first to notice. If something really happened, they would not let Han Dong handle it alone. And at this time, it was impossible for the hybrid demons to cause trouble around London. Then, there should only be one answer. Sally had basically guessed the answer. She looked at Han Dong. "Do you want me to go with you? Although that guy isn't annoying, you'll be in trouble if you get close. I plan to go alone and evaluate with my own subjective opinion. The ranking of the origin demons isn't completely based on strength. Be careful, don't disappear like those miners." "That won't happen. I'll go first." Han Dong put 2 fingers in front of his forehead and made a very simple gesture of farewell. He stepped into the space and appeared outside the dark forest in the next second. Due to the unknown mining accident in Humstein Mine, the nearby instructors had lit black candles outside the forest and pulled up a cordon. "Bishop." Seeing Han Dong arrive, the people who stayed here also breathed a sigh of relief and quickly made a path. "How's the situation?" "We don't know the situation in the mine for now, but the individual who attacked the mine didn't leave the mine through the exit. They should still be inside." "Okay, I'll go take a look." Han Dong stood in front of the mine and smelled a very strange stench. It was not the stench of excrement, rotting corpses, and various fermented mixtures like eugenous. Rather, it was a kind of filth. Just by smelling this smell, Han Dong felt that his whole body was covered in filth, as if he was soaked in a ball of ancient and evil mucus. His whole body was sticky and uncomfortable. Is it a direct effect brought about by the combination of a domain and smell? When Han Dong opened his domain, this filthy feeling was immediately suppressed. Humstein Mine. The interior of the cave had been completely transformed into a filthy lair. A light gray, sticky substance covered the passageways, walls, and wooden beams of the cave. There was even mucus seeping out from the different crevices. Since the elevator could not be used, Han Dong could only walk deeper. I remember that there were more than 300 miners in the Humstein mine. At the same time, there were also 100 people in charge of management, supervision, and project deployment. How come I didn't see any corpses? Just as Han Dong was puzzled, a miner with messy hair in a miner's uniform was walking towards him. This individual, who looked like a miner, had a very strange gait. In an extremely twisted posture, he moved his body with great difficulty, and his speed was extremely slow. At the same time, there were a lot of stitches on the surface of his skin. With every step he took, mucus dripped from the stitches. He always felt that his body could collapse at any moment. Han Dong smelled that something was wrong and immediately opened his magic eye. A terrifying scene instantly squeezed into his eyes. This is. Under the vision of the magic eye, this was not an individual at all. What was approaching was a sticky, messy, and swollen mucus group that did not have a regular shape. It almost occupied the entire mine, as if it was the source of all deformed and abominable creations. Trembling, squirming, bubbling, swaying, all the corpses of the miners were wrapped in its body. Their expressions were painful, and they were struggling endlessly. What is this thing? Han Dong thought that he had seen all kinds of mantis demons, but he had never seen one like this. He instinctively wanted to avoid this kind of species. At this moment, the other party looked over and began to speak. A different body. Your body should be a very good container. Maybe it can last for a year or even longer, but your aura smells very strong. It's troublesome. Although he said that it was troublesome, but several tentacles immediately grew out from the side of the miner's head, showing an amorphous state of constantly dripping mucus. They quickly whipped towards Han Dong. Sand wall. Han Dong hooked his left index finger, and a wall that originated from ancient Egypt instantly rose. Compared to the very ordinary sand wall in the past, after understanding the truth and having a new understanding of magic, the sand wall released could not be seen at all. It was like a real crystal wall. But, the moment the mucus-like tentacles touched the wall, Han Dong immediately received a feedback of magic disintegration. Even this kind of sand crystal can be swallowed in an instant. Does the tentacles have a kind of anti-magic property? Or does it have a property that can eat all substances? Let's try it at close range. Wherever the tentacles went, there was no obstruction to speak of. It was like an eraser, forcibly erasing the sand wall. However, before the sand wall was erased, Han Dong had already escaped into the space slit. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Dense tentacles were being transmitted from the brain to the whole body, covering every corner of Han Dong's body. The next second, Han Dong, whose whole body had been replaced by tentacles, had landed in front of the miner. He grabbed the miner's neck and pressed him to the ground. Sorry, I can only greet you in this way, the ninth original essence, Evil Root Kit Lanier. Because you directly or indirectly caused the death of about 400 miners and disrupted and destroyed the operation of the Humstein mine. You now need to be forcibly brought back to London to stand trial. When the miner, who was pressed to the ground by Han Dong, heard this sentence, he had a troubled look on his face. I can't go directly into the city. I have to stand trial? So troublesome. Can I give up the qualification to play the game? No. Otherwise, I will be imprisoned by my father. It will be very painful and troublesome. You seem to be very strong. Can I ask you to kill me directly? No, you definitely can't kill me. Even if I really die, it seems to be very troublesome. As he spoke, the suture lines on the surface of the miner's body were constantly disintegrating. Mucus constantly overflowed from the wounds and quickly seeped into the ground. Only the miner's skin was left, which had been completely sucked dry. After such communication and contact, Han Dong roughly understood one thing and immediately shouted in the depths of the mine. If you come with me obediently now, I will vouch for you in the name of the bishop and even cancel your trial. In addition, I can provide a shell that is enough to carry your body. I will also solve the related troubles. After saying that, the entire mine began to shake. The light gray substance all over the mine began to slowly gather. At the same time, a large number of springs began to appear on the ground of the mine, and an indescribable amount of fluid was constantly gushing out. This scene surprised Han Dong a little. The mucus that was attached to the miner's body just now was only a part of its body? And it was only a small part? How big is this guy? Chapter 1305. Scarlet Manor. Underground laboratory. The swollen doctor, who was sampling the brain, suddenly smelled a stench that made his brain tremble. When he smelled this stench, he even felt that his brain had become more viscous. Who? The doctor thought that there was an intruder and immediately searched for the source of the smell, sending out a destructive brainwave. Lord! The doctor was suddenly shocked. Because his disrespectful behavior offended the Lord, he was so scared that he immediately knelt down. It's okay, get up. I have something I need you to do. I need a ghoul body with the best load capacity. It's best to maintain the size of a normal person. Okay, I'll present it to the Lord within a minute. The doctor's brain was the data center of the underground laboratory. He immediately entered the keywords load capacity and ghoul, and limited the size of the body to search. He immediately got the result. Soon, a body culture chamber was immediately transported to the current main laboratory through the lumen channel. The ghoul culture body that had not yet been implanted with consciousness lay peacefully in it. The quality is very good, it should be usable. I'll go first. Because of the strange smell emitted by Han Dong, the doctor braced himself and asked, Lord, may I ask what you are doing? Is there anything I can do to help? The ninth origin needs a temporary body to maintain the human form. His body is in the mine outside the city. Doctor, are you interested in coming? As soon as these words came out, the doctor's brain trembled when he connected it to Han Dong's stench. A large amount of brain fluid flowed out of his nose. He quickly took a step back and shook his brain to express his refusal. The descendant of an evil demon. No, no. Han Dong knew that the doctor would have such an expression, but he was just joking. Bringing the doctor there might be a risk to his life. Whoosh! There was a spatial fluctuation. Han Dong carried the meat culture chamber and returned to the mine full of mucus. There was no place to stay in the current mine. Han Dong kept his territory unfolded and shrank it within a meter to ensure that he would not be stained with such mucus. Now, Han Dong could already confirm that the existence of Kit, the ninth essence, was unstable. Even he himself could not control his appearance, and the slime that originated from his body would automatically hunt other mantis demons. With the arrival of Han Dong, amidst the sticky liquid in the mine, the upper body of a clay figurine slowly condensed. Organs that were completely out of order were arranged on the surface. The mouth on the abdomen said in surprise, "This is a ghoul, but it feels very different. This is a brand new ghoul that has been bred and optimized for more than 10 generations. At the same time, it is a combination of many different genes. Its body also contains human genes. It is a bred and does not have a consciousness. Why don't you try and see if it can fit your body?" "Oh, thank you." The liquid that nearly filled the mine began to slowly condense under Kit's control. Using the conduit of the culture chamber, it was quickly injected into the ghoul's body. Just as Han Dong had said, this modified ghoul had an extremely high load capacity. The initial injection went very smoothly, and the body did not show any abnormalities. Compared to the miner's body that Kit had occupied at the beginning, the load capacity was more than 10 times higher. But how many bodies does this guy have? The injection process had already been going on for 10 minutes. Endless stinking slime had been continuously overflowing from the surface of the mine for a long time. The ghoul's body had already been completely bloated, to the point that the culture chamber had completely broken. If this continued, the container with the best load capacity in Han Dong's laboratory would also be scrapped. This is not the way to go on. Eye-opening, in an instant, a black vortex that came out of nowhere acted on the ghoul. The bloated body was slowly pressed back to its original state. The black vortex's restriction was not only a suppression on the physical level, but more like a forced definition on the level of the rules. The consciousness definition initiated by Han Dong as the main body restricted the target to a certain form. The entire process took a full hour. When the last drop of liquid flowed into the ghoul's body, the demon eye closed. Blood continued to seep out from the gap in the eye socket, and Han Dong also fell into a short period of consciousness fatigue. At this time, Kit, who had finally finished molding, had fully adapted to the ghoul's body. Slimy tentacles grew from his back, supporting him to stand. Similarly, the surface of the ghoul's body was also covered with suture marks, which was both a characteristic of Kit and also a means for him to seal himself off. It could effectively prolong the use of the body. "You are amazing." Kit naturally felt Han Dong's pupil technique restriction the entire time, and he roughly knew that this was a powerful method involving the rules. "You're also amazing." Han Dong's heart was beyond astonished. Currently, he was running simulations in his brain. According to Kit's true proportions, he could completely release his body without compressing it. The chaotic slime could probably cover all of London. "Come with me. Since I've already promised you, I will think of a way to exempt you from responsibility for what happened in the mine. But I still have a question. I heard that the Prime will bring their own forces to London. What about your forces?" *Ugh*. Kit vomited a letter made of rotten leather from his mouth. This matter is very troublesome, so my father wrote a letter. You seem to be very familiar with your mother, so I should be able to give it to you, right? I'll be responsible for the matter of the prime and its related forces moving in. As soon as Han Dong finished speaking and opened the letter, he was completely stupefied. I really need to ask my mother for instructions. This matter involves issues of rights and interests that are perhaps more serious than the London celestial body. So it's still very troublesome? I'd better think about how to kill myself. Kit crouched down and drew circles on the ground, pondering the 10872 suicide plan. You don't need to worry about it. I'll discuss this matter with my mother. If I determine that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, it will certainly be carried out normally. You just need to come with me to London and honestly live in a place. If you need anything, feel free to contact me. Remember, you still have to abide by the relevant regulations of London. Oh, Han Dong put a hand on Kit's shoulder, intending to use spatial means to directly take him back. But he found that the space was overloaded and couldn't carry out more than 100 meters of teleportation. Because he was carrying Kit, the space had become viscous and unstable. Furthermore, Han Dong's hand was covered in mucus, and his whole body became filthy. There was no other way but to lead Kit to London on foot. On the way, Han Dong also noticed a detail. Whether it was the dark aborigines they met on the way, or the church followers who had come to greet Han Dong, they all had a look of disgust on their faces. The moment they saw Kit, they would all show a look of disgust, and the church followers would do their best to stand as far away as possible. Kit's existence seemed to disdain even the fiends. The scene of Han Dong leading Kit back to the city was seen by quite a few people. Daring to touch this ticking time bomb. Don't play yourself to death when the time comes. On the city wall, Aslan maintained an expression of mockery the whole time. Chapter 1306. It was only after walking with Kit that Han Dong truly understood what it meant to be loathed. Even though he had the title of Ninth Origin Essence on his head, which was enough to make tens of thousands of people admire him, he could always see more or less loathing in the eyes of the other mantis demons. But Kit didn't care about such loathing at all. Even if there were mantis demons relying on their London background who were disrespectful to him, Kit wouldn't lose his temper at all. Perhaps he was already used to it, or perhaps he found it troublesome and didn't want to respond. Throughout the whole process, he lowered his head and followed behind Han Dong, muttering to himself in a low voice. No one knew what he was talking about. The feeling of loathing should come from his nature. No matter what kind of mantis demon sees Kit, they will all show a feeling of loathing. If he were to bring Kit into the manor, not only would it lower the overall mood, it would even affect the work in the lab. I have to find another safe place to store Kit. Just as Miss Sally said, Kit isn't loathsome, but his own characteristics are rejected by all the mantis demons. His body is like an unstable bomb, and if not used well, it could affect me. Relatively speaking, if used well, it would be an extremely frightening trump card. Thinking of this, Han Dong said, Kit, take Kit with you. Kit, I'll take you to see your mother first to discuss the matter of the organization moving in. When the time comes, I'll have my mother arrange a suitable place for you. But Han Dong didn't get a response for a long time. Turning his head, he saw that Kit, who had been following behind him, had already disappeared. When did he run? Eye-opening. The magical eye could clearly see the footprints on the ground, which extended to a closed tailor shop on the side of the road. Quietly sneaking in, Han Dong discovered that in the deepest part of the shop, there was a secret door with a seal engraved on it. Han Dong had never seen the style of the seal before, and it didn't belong to any organization registered in London. A hidden organization? Using the void to directly pass through to the other side of the secret door, Han Dong was stunned by the scene before his eyes. There was a group of missing chins gathered there, holding a sacrificial ceremony. But the sacrifice had already been replaced with Kit. Even though the group of cultists looked disgusted, for some reason they had to complete the sacrifice. The strange magical seal was quickly engraved on Kit's body. He lit the candles to form a hexagram array. A black dagger condensed with over 100 souls was held in the hands of one of the leaders, and it was stabbed directly into Kit's skull, officially starting the ceremony. Flames rose and the souls wailed. At the end of the bizarre display, the followers were astonished. The sacrificial offering that should have been sent to another world was lying on the altar in perfect condition. At the same time, Kit slowly opened his eyes, looking speechless. Just this. The followers scattered in all directions as if they had seen a monster. Kit had no intention of killing them, he just felt rather disappointed. However, because the sacrificial ritual touched upon Kit's core, an energy feedback from Kit's body immediately converged into a powerful counterattack on the instructor who had just been involved in the ritual. The cultists who had not even run 3 steps began to bubble and liquefy. All their struggles were futile. In just 3 seconds, all that was left was a puddle of stinky mucus and half a skull. "What are you doing?" Han Dong slowly emerged from the shadows, asking in astonishment. I was thinking of a suicide plan, and I sensed a secret ritual by chance, so I wanted to give it a try. The result was really disappointing. Hey, these guys died like this because they touched my soul. Will it be troublesome? Not at all. They themselves violated the City of London's laws, and that has nothing to do with you. If you really want to commit suicide, you can wait until the London game. When the time comes, there will be strong people from other planes descending, and their methods may be able to kill you. If you don't die, and still want to commit suicide after the game, I will do it myself. Before that, don't think about suicide, at least don't run around. Oh, I know. His dark mother, who had never cared much about anything, became serious when she received Kit's letter. She used the various channels in her hands to send out the contents of the letter, and used them to estimate the pros and cons of the letter's proposal. In the end, she approved the sewer plan mentioned in the letter. The request in the letter was for his dark mother to temporarily hand over the City of London's sewers. The evil beings from underground would infiltrate and invade the entire sewer system, moving into the City of London. However, his dark mother requested that the time of moving in be changed. They had to wait until the first plane portal opened before they could let Kit's forces move in. Finally, Kit Lanier was placed in a sealed secret room that his dark mother had tailor-made for him. The secret room would provide Kit with all services, but he would be restricted to staying in the secret room 24 hours a day. He could only leave if accompanied by Han Dong or the Mythical of Darkness. Only Han Dong and his dark mother knew the location of the secret room. Kit was in full agreement with the point of imprisonment. He also believed that staying in the secret room and not leaving would reduce the trouble as much as possible. Kit, if you're bored and want to find someone to talk to, or if you need to go out, you can contact me through this crow. Oh. Kit, who had taken the dead crow, responded simply. He crouched in the corner, as if thinking about his next suicide plan. Staring at Kit, who looked like he was waiting for death, Han Dong closed the door and locked it. Phew! I didn't expect there to be such an anomaly among the hybrid demons. His mental state isn't something that can be healed with a few simple words. It's best not to use it as much as possible. In this way, only green hasn't come yet. There's still 1 month left. If the hybrid demon world was represented by a high-dimensional coordinate system, the Earth's coordinates were the closest to the Black Tower. This was also the reason why the Portal of Destiny appeared mainly on Earth. However, Earth wasn't the center of the world. It was far away from the Milky Way, in the center of countless galaxies. Searching for the only boundary of the chaos, it kept going deeper and deeper, moving towards the center of the true chaos. If the person who went deep had the equivalent of 1,000 fully open human brains, coupled with normal parameter adjustments, they would see a terrifying celestial body filled with abysses in the center of the infinite chaos of the universe. It was the center of the origin of the universe. It was also the entrance to the chaos abyss. At the same time, it was also an ultimate throne. If the person who went deep grasped ancient cosmic clues or revelations in the void, they could speculate the correct entrance to the abyss. Going against the endless madness, they would reach a palace in the deepest part of the abyss. A strange melody that transcended the senses reverberated here. A young man whose entire body was covered with small pores slowly stepped out of the palace's private bath. His mind and body were both in an excellent state. In this way, I only need to fill in the last piece of the mythical puzzle through this battle. Don't let me down, invaders, haha. Butler, please open the ultimate door for me. I need to see my father. The music paused. In exchange, there was a strange sound that was above all other music. The great master has already left for the gathering. If you have urgent matters, young master, I can pass on the message. Father is actually more anxious than me. How rare. It seems that the London game this time will be much more interesting than last time. I'm looking forward to it. There's no need to pass on the message. Since Father has already left, there's no need to talk to him in detail. I'm also preparing to leave here to see my good friend in advance. Chapter 1307. Deep space, a shattered border, it appeared in the form of a broken mirror, and the gaps between the fragments were filled with completely solidified black matter. This was the world-shattering point that was broken by the special team in the Black Tower during the outbreak of the world cataclysm. It took thousands of years, the constant attention of many old kings, and a large amount of world resources to barely repair it. The space near the shatter was extremely unstable. Conventional celestial bodies would be torn apart in an instant once they approached. About 3 light-years away from the shatter, there was an independent celestial body that shouldn't exist. A superstorm that could destroy a planet raged on the surface of the celestial body all year round, and its foundation didn't waver at all. It was completely different from the location of the previous London game. Due to the larger scale of the game this time, it involved more changes in sovereignty and the planning of the future situation, as well as the participation of more old kings. The London Games casino was re-established here, using the human brain and senses to perceive this planet. But very cheerful music could be heard in the frenzied storm. At the same time, there were waves of broadcast sounds that could penetrate the storm, intermittently transmitting into the universe. In this way, it attracted more old kings. Due to the strong influence of the storm's magnetic field, only a few keywords could be heard. Royal Casino Sexy. Online dealing. The source of the broadcast corresponded to a magnificent casino building. More than a dozen luxury cars of different styles were parked in front of the gate. There was only one casino in the building that looked dozens of stories high and covered an area of hundreds of acres. The rest of the space corresponded to a completely chaotic multi-dimensional maze and countless golden doors. One had to follow a special route and a fixed order of opening the doors to reach this ultimate casino. At present, many familiar faces had already appeared in the casino. A square-faced bartender with eyes as deep as the starry sky. A middle-aged man with 1 foot in a wet boot and 1 foot on the ground barefoot. His entire body was soaked. Various marine creatures were hidden in his wet long hair that drooped over his shoulders. A gray-skinned young man in a vest. When looking at this young man from different angles, his facial features would appear in different forms. A gloomy man surrounded by fog and covered most of his face. Wait. Any one of the gamblers here would be able to affect the balance of the world if they took it out alone. Coming here today was not only because of his interest, but also because of an irresistible summons. At present, they were all sitting in their respective seats without any movement. The earliest gambler had been in the casino for about a year. Everyone seemed to be waiting for the arrival of a heavyweight. At this moment, a Rolls-Royce Phantom with a chaotic interior arrived at the casino. For a moment, the power supply equipment of the casino building encountered electromagnetic interference, and the lights flickered irregularly. When this special gambler's right foot stepped out of the carriage, his left foot had already appeared outside the golden door of the ultimate casino with the corresponding sound of heavy leather shoes. He didn't even walk into the casino and pass through the passage. Strands of turbid aura that symbolized madness were constantly seeping out from under the door. Another reminder, the above are all sounds and images decoded by the human brain. If brought in through the vision of a regular hybrid demon, it might correspond to a messy and crowded organ building, and the vehicle corresponds to a deeply distorted hybrid demon vehicle. Each gambler's wooden chair corresponds to their respective throne. At this moment, all the gamblers stood up from their seats and looked at the door with different reverence and respect. The door opened. The corridor of the casino, which was covered with red carpets and lights, had turned into an irregular bottomless abyss. A strong suction force was applied to the space of the casino. However, the gamblers here would not be affected. "Hello, boss. Azath Sichkula." These gamblers, who symbolized the peak of a certain world's power, spoke out in unison. Standing at the door was an old man who was the same age as the world. His black and gray messy hair floated in the air in a chaotic state, or it was messy on his face. A piece of black satin covered his eyes. His thick black beard dragged on the ground. His huge body almost filled all the gold-framed doors. An infinitely twisted scepter was held in his right hand, supporting his somewhat unstable body. In fact, it was the artifact that limited his infinite posture in order to compress his infinite body within the limits of the physical world, so as to enter the current area. A little carelessness may cause an irregular expansion, leading to the complete collapse of this celestial body. The old man didn't greet the gambler in front of him and went straight to his seat. With his arrival, the opening ceremony of the London game officially began. The person in charge was still the previous bartender. I have already deduced the scale of the London game and the possible invasion points based on the chaos index provided by Boss. This also refers to the information brought out by a junior from the Black Tower. This junior, some of the guests already know, is one of the winners of the last game. He is a guy with human attributes, and he seems to be doing well in the Black Tower. The multiplane invasion can be completely confirmed. Therefore, the gambling rules this time will undergo a major change. Even the basic rules will be changed. I will split the main chessboard into sub-chessboards according to the number of planes, and set up a variety of different types of gambling. Everyone can bet on different chessboards. Therefore, I also hope that everyone will take out more land deeds as wagers, so that we can have more fun. At this time, Boss spoke. Yog, explain in detail the humans and the wagers related to them. No problem. The humans' expeditionary force will be forcibly separated during the multiplane invasion, and they may appear on different wagers. At that time, forces that appear in different areas can place individual bet. As for the wager ratio, it will be determined according to the specific situation at the opening ceremony. At the same time, if the total contribution of the humans in the whole game exceeds 50%, the holy city they represent will be regarded as a friendly force, and the lower king land deeds will be drawn from this wager as their reward. If they fail, I will contribute 3 lower king land deeds for everyone to win. The details of the wager will be explained by the dealers in different areas when the game starts. The bartender gently raised his hand. Immediately, a London sand table rose on the table, corresponding to the current state of the City of London, including celestial bodies, icebergs, sheep, and human areas. At the same time, Starlight condensed a series of data representing the state of matter above the sand table, and finally concluded that the human expeditionary force and the overall power of the hybrid demons in London were in a state of balance. Due to the comprehensive change of the rules of the game, the variety and complexity of the game were magnified, and all the gamblers present were excited. They all rubbed their hands, and their eyes showed excitement and madness. They didn't seem to be worried about the invasion of the world at all, and they only cared about how to play the game well. Chapter 1308. On top of a barren white hill, there was a strange tree made of white fingers. Looking from afar, this tree was like two palms in the shape of flowers. Its name was Thousand-Finger Demon Cleansing Tree. This was the space of consciousness corresponding to Dempsey's talent tree. The talent slots on the surface of the tree trunk were all lit up. Now it was undergoing the crucial door opening. The abyss was not like Han Dong's, which was inside the tree trunk. The palm-shaped talent tree continued to grow, stretching to the sky. In the sky hundreds of meters high, it tore open a reverse opening to the abyss. A few days ago, Demps had followed the talent tree and officially stepped into the abyss of truth, accepting the truth from the inside through a reverse falling method. But, because of Dempsey's characteristics, some unexpected situations occurred in the abyss. An extremely rare thing happened. Dempsey's consciousness did not come out of the abyss for a long time. Now, what overflowed from the abyss was not Dempsey's body, but tangled fingers like roots. There were 21 days left before the London game began. Ahahaha! In a room made of multi-layer soundproof materials, laughter could still be faintly heard from the room. Han Dong was undergoing special training here. Crazy laughter had lasted for 18 hours, and blood was constantly seeping from the corner of his mouth. At this time, a rush of knocking on the door interrupted the special training. The believers almost forced their way to the door, their faces covered with black blood veins, and they were panting. So anxious? Did the invasion start early? Yes, the invasion is here. A minute ago, a large number of fingers suddenly came out of the gate of destiny of the church headquarters. The fingers themselves have anti-magic properties, and in a short time, they broke through many layers of enchantments and spread in the church. So far, more than 10 teachers and 2 priests have died. This has alarmed the higher-ups in London, and Father Lysos is rushing to the scene. Fingers? Han Dong did not have time to call for any help. Whoosh! Void transfer, a few continuous steps out of the starry sky. In a few seconds, he rushed from the manor to Big Ben. At present, most of the teachers had been evacuated. Some of the teachers whose robes were torn were in an unstable state. Their exposed skin was covered with white fingers, and they were mentally deranged. What a coincidence! Father Lessos, who was holding an umbrella and shrouded in darkness, had just arrived. He was about to use his mythical body to fully suppress the headquarters. Father Lysos, this matter is not a result of fate's invasion. Please leave it to me. I will do my best to suppress any unexpected situations in the headquarters, and I will bear the consequences alone. All right. Since you've said so, I'll leave this matter to you for now. Due to the importance of the headquarters, I can only give you 10 minutes. If you can't resolve this matter within the stipulated time, I will immediately slaughter you. All right. Han Dong hurriedly stepped into the church, his expression becoming even more solemn. The white finger had already occupied about 40% of the headquarters, and it was still spreading. Every finger had anti-magic properties. They could form an isolated network that covered the entire headquarters, completely cutting off contact with the outside world. If this continued, they might come into contact with the Church of Evernight's secret chamber. This was also the main reason why Father Lessos was alarmed. Count, come out! Along with Han Dong's shout, a scarlet blood dog about 4 meters long peeled off from the right arm, its bright red dog mane fluttering back and forth in the air. The moment Count appeared, he said in an arrogant tone. This Count doesn't need to say much. You should know what's going on in front of you, right? What's the situation? Han Dong couldn't be bothered to bicker with Count and hurriedly asked. It seems that this Count is more knowledgeable. This is an extremely rare truth loss. Only those who attempt to peek at the bottom of the abyss and disregard the collapse of their consciousness will encounter such a situation. Based on the current situation, it's naturally your six-fingered friend. This guy should be a smart person. How would he encounter a truth loss situation? However, his background involves the dark side of the world, and it's a rather deep secret. Perhaps it has something to do with some of his secret. How can I restore Demps to normal? Restore? Usually, in such a situation, you can only forcefully kill him. The truth is devouring his consciousness in reverse, and there's almost no chance of saving him. Cut the crap. I'm asking you how to restore him? Han Dong's words contained a kind of kingly pressure, scaring Count into tucking his tail between his legs. There's only one way, and it's very dangerous. Find the main body that's out of control, and through contact, sneak your consciousness into his brain and find the root of the problem. And then, this Count only knows this much. Your friend grew up through the fate system. I don't know what's going on in his space of consciousness, so I can only go in and take a look. I'll warn you again, this method is very dangerous. If you're not careful, your consciousness may also be involved. I've already accepted all the truths at this stage, and left my name on the stone tablet at the bottom. Even if the abyss shrouds me again, it won't affect my consciousness. You should be able to smell Demps's main body. Quickly lead the way. Okay, when the time comes, this Count will guard your body outside. A man and a dog immediately went into the depths of Big Ben. At the same time, on the street outside of Big Ben, Father Lessos was removing the growth products from the bodies of some of the seriously injured teachers. These growing fingers caused the energy transmission, blood circulation, and nerves in the mantis demon's body to be completely messed up. It was quite strange. At this time, an uninvited guest, wrapped in a wool coat, happened to pass by. This person's arrival immediately attracted the attention of all the teachers, invisibly calming their emotions, reducing their pain and suppressing their confusion. Truth out of control? What a rare situation. Following a female voice, the mysterious person came in front of the priest out of curiosity. Reverend Father, do you need my help with this matter? Father Lessos looked at the beautiful face covered by the collar of the wool coat. His emotions did not fluctuate. After considering it from a rational point of view, he nodded in affirmation. In the depths of the church, with Count tearing and biting along the way, he forcibly cleared the path to the gate of destiny. The scene in front of him stunned Han Dong. Tens of thousands of white fingers were arranged in a very regular and compact manner, forming a white and soft palm that was in an open state. In the palm was a completely naked Demps, who had been completely demonized. So beautiful! This exclamation was not said by Han Dong or Count, but by the guest behind him. When Count smelled the scent in the air, he was immediately stimulated and frightened. He actually stuck to Han Dong's side in a standing position, his dog paws tightly hugging Han Dong's arm. Han Dong's expression did not change. He turned around and asked, "Miss Helen, what are you doing here?" The person who came was the sixth prime essence, infinite beauty, Helen Silber. "Can you not look at me like that? I only came in with the priest's permission. This is a rare truth out of control. Speaking of which, is the young man in the palm your friend? He's clearly human in nature, but mixed with the most primitive mantis demon attribute. From the situation in front of me, I can only save him by invading and suppressing his consciousness. Do you need my help? In this regard, I should be better than you." Count's urging immediately came. "Hurry up and accept her, this is the sixth prime essence. Born in the depths of the dreamlands, she is an absolute expert in consciousness. With her help, the success rate will greatly increase. Thank you, Miss Helen. Because this was the first time Han Dong came into contact with truth out of control. He was not confident and was also under a time limit. Accepting help was the only way to save Demps. Chapter 1309. Helen Silber. She had certainly behaved herself during her stay in London, and had not caused any trouble because of her beauty. At the same time, she did not agree to Aslan's invitation. Unless she had no choice, she did not want to form an alliance with someone who was absolutely selfish. This dog is. Helen stared at the cowardly blood dog. She could clearly sense the aura of atavism, and at the same time, she also noticed that Blood Dog had established a deep consciousness connection with Han Dong, a relationship that was deeper than a master-servant relationship. As a part of Han Dong, it could also be as independent as it was now. Just call him a Count. It's a part of my body. Count also tried to be tough and said with a trembling voice, This Count's consciousness will not enter. I will guard your body here. Helen couldn't hold it in and actually laughed. Haha, this dog is really interesting, can I touch it? Count was connected with Han Dong on the consciousness level. He could also see Helen's body, but he could not feel her beauty at all. When he heard that she wanted to touch him, he immediately hid behind Han Dong in fear. However, Han Dong was not in the mood to joke with her. Miss Helen, the time given by the priest is only 7 minutes and 37 seconds left. Let's cut to the chase. After that, you can touch it however you want. Count's strength is not bad, and he can control my body. There will be no problem with him guarding outside. Well, let me establish the consciousness channel. Even if there is a risk of backlash, we can decisively get out. After saying that, vine-like tendrils grew out of Helen's body. One chain extended towards Han Dong, while the other chain connected to Dempus, who was held in the palm of his hand. The plant tentacles penetrated the skin in a gentle and painless way and connected to the nerves in Han Dong's arm. After confirming that there was no risk in Helen's consciousness connection, Han Dong took the initiative to connect to the local area network. Whoosh consciousness transmission. In the blink of an eye, the two of them landed on the white wasteland. Whether it was Han Dong or Helen, they were both stunned by the scene before them. Even with their knowledge and experience, they had never seen such an exaggerated scene. The giant white hand formed by the talent tree reached towards the sky and tore open the opening to the abyss. There was no trace of Demps here. Countless fingers overflowed from the abyss, almost filling up the space of consciousness. It was the disorder in the space of consciousness that caused Demps's physical body to become abnormal, which led to the finger incident at the church headquarters. It seems that your friend's consciousness is still trapped in the abyss. Strange. Generally speaking, individuals who have lost control of their truth will be forcibly expelled from the abyss and will still be left to perish on their own. Now it seemed that the only way to save him was to go to the abyss. Since the abyss of truth was created based on your friend's system, it will produce a strong repulsive force against outsiders. It's very risky. Do you really want to go in? Yes, if Miss Helen feels that there is a risk, you can stay here. I'm fine. This kind of situation is rare. I also want to see what's going on inside. I have my consciousness protecting me. I won't die. After saying that, using the related characteristics of floating corpses, Han Dong, who was dressed as a bird-beak doctor, flew straight into the crack in the sky like a black crow. So fast. A devil's snare immediately grew under Helen's feet and carried her to catch up with Han Dong's flying speed. The moment they stepped into the crack in the abyss, the reverse rule immediately acted on both of them. The ascending state instantly turned into an irresistible fall. The scene in the abyss was even more exaggerated. A finger pillar, formed by fingers, ran vertically through the entire abyss. Strange, where's the repulsive force? Han Dong had already made a comprehensive defense with his consciousness, but he didn't feel any repulsive force at the moment. Helen also had a surprised expression on her face. However, according to Helen's experience, she immediately came to a conclusion. If there's no repulsive force, it means that your friend has accepted all the truth in the abyss. The abyss belongs to him. But this conclusion is very contradictory to what we saw. If he completely accepted the truth and the abyss belongs to him, there wouldn't be a situation of truth out of control. Han Dong immediately asked, "Is it possible that this isn't truth out of control at all, but another state that we haven't seen before? Didn't Miss Helen say before that if the truth is out of control, the individual will be forcibly expelled from the abyss? Now that you mention it, it's really possible. Interesting." Helen showed a rare smile, but in Han Dong's eyes, it was a terrifying smile accumulated by hundreds of skulls. Just like that, the two really fell to the bottom of the abyss without any hindrance. This place was exactly the same as the bottom level that Han Dong had been to. Green grass and a stone tablet standing in the center. However, the stone tablet here would only resonate with Demp. If an outsider touched it, it would be a very ordinary stone. The truth of truth out of control was finally revealed. Demps's original body was here, kneeling on one knee in front of the stone tablet. He was holding a crown with both hands, constantly lifting the crown with the power of will, trying to put it on his head. It was different from Han Dong's crown that had not been polished. Demps's crown had long been formed and stored here. At present, he had only come to the bottom of the abyss and used the opening of the door to officially put on the crown that had been passed down to him. The finger pillar that connected the entire abyss when the two fell was also a part of the crown. The crown was made of fingers, and its height was about the same as the abyss. When Demps came into contact with the crown, the king's will inside affected his domain of consciousness and stimulated his external body, causing a finger disaster to befall the Church of Evernight. The situation in front of him wasn't truth out of control, but an inheritance ritual. "I knew you would come, Nicholas. I think I must have brought a lot of trouble to the outside world, right? To wear a crown, one must bear its weight. This is a process that I have to go through while opening the door. It's good that you're fine. Don't worry about the situation outside. I'll take care of it." Han Dong calculated the time. If the time was up, he would immediately return to his body and ask the priest for additional time. However, Demps's inheritance ritual was about to be completed. He stabilized his arms and completely placed the 1,000-finger crown on his head. In an instant, the fingers that filled the space of consciousness and the finger pillar that pierced through the abyss were all retracted, condensing into an extremely exquisite white jade crown on Demps's head. At the same time, the fingers that had spread throughout the Church of Evernight also disappeared. "Phew! It's done. Nicholas, who is this?" Without waiting for Han Dong's introduction, a female voice filled with love came from the woolen coat. "Hello, Helen Hilbert. May I ask if you are inheriting a new king's qualification? The 6th primordial essence? Dream woman?" Demps didn't answer her question. He didn't want to reveal his identity as the new king to the primordial essence. "Yes. Do you know me? That's great. Can I hand it over to a friend?" Helen was extremely excited. She took off her coat and revealed her true body. She even wanted to hug him naked. Han Dong tactfully walked to the side. Firstly, the Helen in Han Dong's eyes was very difficult to accept. Secondly, the best way to not reveal the identity of the new king was to take Helen in as one of his own. Han Dong wasn't worried about this at all. He believed that Demps would do better than him. Chapter 13:10. At the bottom of the abyss, Han Dong sensibly moved his feet to the edge, leaving the main stage to Demps. Demps immediately understood Han Dong's meaning. Indeed, the only way to keep the identity of the new king secret was to completely win over the sixth prime. What was completely? Then he had to use all means to conquer it. Because he didn't have a special eye, Demps was strongly influenced by Helen's external beauty when he looked at her. In Demp's consciousness, the most beautiful image was reflected. Even through the combination of different skulls and plant tentacles, an absolutely realistic touch was simulated. However, Demps also grew small fingers in various areas of his brain and pressed on key synapses to curb his inner desires. A battle between masters, directly unfolded here. The scene in front of him made Han Dong not dare to look directly at it. He tried his best to turn his vision away and silently waited for the incident to end. Although the scene was a little bad, the result was quite good. Night headquarters. The finger incident was completely over. As Han Dong was willing to bear all the losses of the headquarters, Father Lesos also gave up on pursuing Demps's responsibility. However, he made a request. Let Demps and Han Dong have a private conversation with him. The sixth prime who participated in this incident was also included in this conversation. The conversation area was set in a secret interrogation room of the church. The domain from the priest forcefully intervened in reality and sealed the interrogation room. The courtroom was immediately transformed into a land of punishment. Individuals whose faces couldn't be seen were self-judging through various means of punishment, such as using hammers and wooden awls to pierce the chest, burning the flesh with torches, and so on. The moment the domain was formed, the priest went straight to the point and asked, "What's wrong? Will the survivors of the backside also participate in this game?" Demps didn't play dumb or hesitate, as if he had already expected the situation in front of him. He answered very calmly, "This London game isn't something you can participate in just because you want to, right? If you don't have an invitation letter, forcefully participating will inevitably be irresistible, excluded, or even directly erased. If they were involved, they must have received the relevant invitation. I can give Sir Priest a guarantee. Whether they participate or not, they will always be on the same side as everyone." The priest examined Demp's body and gave a very high evaluation. "Yes, your answer is correct. I didn't expect that the survivors would arrange for a noble junior to infiltrate the human and use this non-hybrid demon system to grow and develop." Demps immediately agreed with the priest's words, nodding and saying, "Yes, since the other party could cause great damage to our world in that battle, and it ended in a situation where we were evenly matched. Self-sealing is obviously not advisable. Since we can walk into the other party's system through this channel without being targeted, we naturally have to give it a try. I agree with Nicholas on this point." With that said, Demps directly put his arm on Han Dong's shoulder. Han Dong looked confused, but he still nodded reluctantly. The priest had already gotten the answer he wanted, so he did not probe any further. Progress problem was still as Han Dong thought. Mia and Abel could not keep up with the speed of progress. The two were different from Demp. Even if they had done well, they still could not get 2 points of talent at once. They were currently a grade 4 knight. The difference of a large level was insurmountable. Because of Han Dong's special identity in the City of London, the Raven's language team was forced to temporarily disband during the next battle. Abel would join the Wolves of Evernight, established by the Behemoth Knights. Mia, as a pharmacist, was assigned to a backup supply team. Han Dong also made it clear that if the two encountered any danger, they could go to the manor to take refuge. Currently, in the basement of a church branch that Han Dong was in charge of, he was assisting Demps in the rehabilitation training related to truth. At the same time, he also wanted to take the opportunity to uncover more secrets about Demp. So strong. The magic shield was shattered. Demps's retreating body smashed a hole in the wall, and his whole body went limp on the ground. Staring at Han Dong, who was sorting out the hyperplastic tissue in his arm, Demps also began to be curious about what Han Dong had experienced during the time when he left the expeditionary army. It was not just the changes brought about by the opening of the door. Han Dong's vision, physical body, and magic use were all greatly improved, especially in 1v1, it was very obvious. During the battle, Demps even felt several times that he was facing an old man who had experienced hundreds of battles, not a young man. Han Dong's accumulation of battle experience was far beyond his peers. He did not know. This was the battle purity that Han Dong and Count exchanged through blood and tears. Whoosh! Han Dong pressed on the cervical vertebra with one hand, adjusting the severely dislocated bones, and slowly walked towards Demp. Ouch, my cervical vertebra almost disappeared. Today's training will end here. By the way, Demp, I have been thinking about a question these days. What does the priest mean by back and remnant? For the sake of providing rehabilitation training these days, can you tell me about it? Demps could no longer support his body and could only barely sit against the wall. With your brain, Nicholas, you should be able to guess the general answer, right? After all, you have seen Mother. The so-called back and remnant actually mean the same thing. It refers to a group of original hybrid demons that originated from the day of creation and have no faith. Later, because their posture was similar to humans, they were also called demons. That's right, the great demon captain is also related to the original hybrid demons. For some reason, they do not believe in any of the old kings, so naturally they are not accepted by the world. Most of them are active in the most inconspicuous corners of the world. Only mythical bodies like Mother will be slightly active on the surface. Original hybrid demons, no faith? Han Dong was very clear that the hybrid demon world was built on a framework of faith. The lower race's crazy belief in the old kings was far higher than their own lives. It was this kind of belief framework that made the world so stable. In the last game in London, the hybrid demons wanted to prove this to the invaders. Betrayal was extremely rare in the hybrid demon world, and the invaders who tried to rebel would only be seeking their own death. However, nothing was absolute. Han Dong knew that there would always be a group of hybrid demons that did not follow the rules. Now it seemed that the original hybrid demons represented by Demps were a group that did not follow the rules and were unwilling to believe in any king. And they were very disciplined in their activities in the inconspicuous area of the back. Demps did not say much about what kind of organization it was. He hoped that Han Dong could explore the West Lake himself. After an entire week of rehabilitation training, with the help of Han Dong and Miss Helen, Demps had completely adapted to opening doors. Similarly, in return, Demps would provide a series of supreme services that could not be experienced in the Dreamlands. A very deep thought had been formed. Han Dong would even avoid Helen when she came. He did not want to be a third wheel, and that kind of scene was not very appetizing. Today, Helen still came at the same time. However, her expression did not seem to be as excited as before. At the same time, she took out a letter that emitted a chill from her cashmere coat. This is? Han Dong felt the chill and connected it to a certain individual. Aslan just came to find me. There are only 10 days left before the game begins. He will be holding a Origin conference in advance. Due to some reasons, I have to go now. Chapter 13:11. Judging from Helen's tone and expression, it was easy to guess. This Origin Essence Conference, initiated by the third Origin Essence, had an irresistible quality. He had to participate. Han Dong immediately returned to the manor. As expected, Sally the Black Goat and Hope the Hominid had also received invitations to the conference through different channels. However, the two of them were still waiting in front of Han Dong's manor. Hopper expressed his dissatisfaction with the start of the Origin Conference, mainly because Mad Devil Green hadn't arrived yet. Aslan actually used the authority in her hands to start the conference early. Although time was tight, they could still wait for at least a week. The reason Sally stayed here was naturally because of Han Dong. Nicholas, why don't you come with us to the conference? I can still go? There's nothing you can't go. If Grimm didn't come, there would be an empty spot. Besides, you're also considered a person in power in London. You can attend as London's representative. As long as more than half of the people agree, you can attend. At least Hope and I will definitely vote for you. Alright, I'll give it a try. You guys go ahead first. I still have to go somewhere. I'll be right there. Han Dong was very interested in the conference between the origin essences. Moreover, this conference initiated by Aslan was very likely to involve some conspiracy and division of forces. If he was lucky, he might even get some key information. The place Han Dong wanted to go was naturally the secret room where the 9th origin essence, Kit, was sealed. Unexpectedly, Kit, who was bored and trying to hang himself, had also received an invitation to the conference. Obviously, this letter was not presented on a physical level. Instead, it was directly generated through the connection between the origin essences. The letter did not specify the location of the O conference room. It only arranged to meet in front of Aslan's iceberg. Within half an hour, the 9 origin essences that had arrived in London had all arrived. Aslan still had the same anthropomorphic style, flaming hair paired with small eyes, a white shirt and black trousers. He was always playing with 2 strange flints in his hand. I've borrowed the identity of the speaker to obtain the basic rule book of the London game. Due to time issues, I've applied for the Origin Essence Conference in advance and received approval from the higher-ups. This is a miniature title deed with a sharp corner seal. Please take a look. The conference will also be held here. If Green arrives in London afterwards, I will personally explain the details of the meeting to him. After all the necessary procedures had been completed, the hominoid Hope complained in great dissatisfaction. There are still 10 days to go. The meeting can be held the day before. If Green is absent, you will have an advantage in voting, won't you? If Big Brother Green came earlier like us, wouldn't he also be able to participate in the meeting? I'm just considering the time. If the game starts early, things will become troublesome. Don't you think so, Hope? If there are no problems, please leave and follow me to the conference space. When she mentioned the words, miscellaneous person, Aslan purposely placed her gaze on Han Dong. When she sensed the gaze, Sally immediately put on a cold and arrogant expression. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and stuck close to Han Dong's body. She even placed her goat leg in front of Han Dong. Nicholas. He will participate in the meeting as the London representative. Aslan smiled and said, Representative from London? There is no rule that a representative can occupy a seat in the original substance conference. Sally, stop joking. It is clearly stated that if a original substance is absent from the conference, if the following conditions are met, they can be substitutes. The substitutes will temporarily enjoy a seat in the conference and participate in the whole process. 1. There is an origin connection with the absentee. 2. Half of the original substance agrees with the participation of the substitute. There is an origin connection with Green? Can you prove it? As soon as Aslan said that, everyone focused their attention on Han Dong. It would be fine if there was any connection with them, but if there was an origin connection with Green, everyone would like to see it. Han Dong did not hear Sally mention it before. He scratched his head awkwardly. I don't know if this counts. After saying that, Han Dong recalled the feeling of Green going in and out of the holes on the surface of his body, and the scene of fighting against the Golden Saint in Green's abyss core. Imitation, feeling and imitating the madness that only belonged to Green, he released it with laughter. Ha! While Han Dong was laughing, everyone was nervous. Everyone at the scene was tense, and at the same time, they recalled some unpleasant experiences. They looked at the surrounding areas that were related to the holes, and were in a defensive state, as if something terrifying could come out of the holes at any time. At this moment, Han Dong took the initiative to cut off his laughter, and the tension disappeared. Aslan's small eyes widened a little, looking at Han Dong with a strange feeling, but she quickly returned to her friendly squinting eyes. Since there really is a connection between the origins, then let us cast a vote. There are 9 of us here, and only those with more than 5 votes can participate in the conference. Come on, those who allow Bishop Nicholas to participate, please raise your hand. Sally and Hope raised their hands decisively. There were still 3 votes left. After a while, Evil Root Kit Lanier also slowly raised his hand. In fact, he actually wanted to raise his hand at the first moment, but because of his unstable body and improper operation, he raised a tentacle in his body and almost broke through his ghoul skin. At the same time, he also cast a very kind look at Han Dong. Everyone saw this scene, and each had different opinions. There were still 2 votes left. After hesitating for a while, Beauty Helen Silber raised her hand. The previous votes were all within Aslan's expectations and were completely acceptable, but this vote almost caused Aslan to lose her image as the speaker. It should be known that she had extended an olive branch to Helen from the beginning. Who knew, not only did Helen not reply, but she also cast a vote for Han Dong at this time. It could be Helen's personal consideration, or it could be that Helen had secretly chosen a camp. No matter what, it was equivalent to expressing her attitude and refusing to cooperate with Aslan. Aslan held back her emotions and said calmly, "4 votes doesn't seem to be enough, since," just as she said this, another hand was raised from the crowd. It came from the red-haired youth, King Star Vader Cousins, who had a planet floating in front of his chest. This vote made Han Dong very surprised. Aslan suppressed the agitation in her heart with the Arctic breath and asked softly, "Vader, are you sure you want to let an outsider participate in the meeting? Bop is against it." Vader replied with a straight face, "Bishop Nicholas is a very good hybrid demon, and he can indeed be the London representative. Since the theme of the meeting will revolve around the London game, and Bishop Nicholas happens to be related to Grimm, it is a very wise decision to let him participate in the meeting. This is my personal opinion, and it has nothing to do with Brother Pope." Han Dong smiled slightly. He didn't expect that his warm welcome would really bring about an unexpected gain. "Since that's the case, then I've decided to let Warren Nicholas replace Christopher J. Grimm to participate in the meeting. Everyone, come in." Aslan calmed her emotions and spread out a land deed that was like dry soil. In an instant, the 10 people who had received permission were sucked into it and arrived at a barren planet. A conference table and 10 chairs of different styles were placed in front of everyone. However, Han Dong's gaze was on the other side. Not far away, there was a huge stone tablet that was exactly the same as the one at the bottom of the Abyss of Truth. The autographs of the 10 prime demons were engraved on it. Chapter 13:12. The aura from this stone tablet is very similar to the stone tablet at the bottom of the abyss, but it is not the same. The stone tablets at the bottom of the abyss actually correspond to different individuals who open the door. To a certain extent, they are personal possessions and cannot be moved to the outside world. As for the stone tablet that appeared here, it was more like it was a replica. The copy is almost 100%. This stone tablet should be the final reward of the original game. The 10 winning mantis demons will carve their names on the surface of the stone tablet, and at the same time, they will be awarded with an original title. Every original title has a corresponding meaning, and it can even specialize one of their abilities or improve the quality of their domain. Han Dong shifted his gaze from the stone tablet back to the conference table. Since he was a temporary replacement, he would also sit in the seat that originally belonged to Grimm. This was a chair full of chaotic tentacles with a strange shape and full of holes. Not only Han Dong, but most of the original seats were uncomfortable. Only 2 women's seats were very comfortable. Sally's seat was covered with black wool, and there were goat skulls on both sides of the armrests. Helen's seat was a chair woven from plant vines. Although there were skulls connected to the inside of the chair, it didn't cause any discomfort when one sat down. Since everyone is here, let us begin the meeting. As the speaker, Aslan had readjusted his emotions. Since Han Dong had participated in the meeting according to the rules, he had nothing to say. The next thing he wanted to talk about was the most important thing. Every participant received a manuscript, and on it was printed the ancient text that symbolized the London game. As everyone knows the situation, the London game will be divided into the inner and outer fields. We will be participants in the inner field, fighting against the invaders that will appear from the Gate of Destiny. The outer field will be based on the situation in the inner field, and individual or group bets will be made. The land deed will be the bargaining chip. Our performance will affect the entire bet. If we, as individuals or groups, can win benefits for the old kings in the outer field, we will also receive a certain share. I won't say more about this point. Everyone should have deeply experienced it in the original game. However, I have to remind you of one thing. More than 90% of the gamblers in the outer area this time, including the Supreme Chaos, were in the upper echelons. The scale of this event was larger than anything we had experienced before, and the requirements for the game were also very strict. Our origin essence symbolizes both the individual and the corresponding group. If there was a double difference situation in the London game, the origin title will be forcibly stripped. Their corresponding groups, the races that supported them, and even the old Wangdu might be seriously affected by the association. Therefore, I hope that everyone can perform well in the game. As soon as he said this, both Hop and Dark Root Kit had obvious changes in their eyes. Hope's background was a problem. He wanted to obtain more benefits and preferential treatment for his race through large-scale activities. As for Kit, it was a personal problem. His main goal was to commit suicide, so he was very negative. He didn't have much interest in the game. But once he heard that it might affect the old king behind him, things changed. To think that Father would be involved. If he was eaten by Father because of his poor performance, everything would become incomparably troublesome. At that time, he would never be able to commit suicide, and would always live in trouble. Kit held his head and muttered to himself. His condition wasn't quite right. Several tentacles had drilled out of his skin, and his lower body was even rapidly swelling. "It's okay, Kit. I'll do my best to help. Your performance will definitely be above the baseline." Han Dong's voice, mixed with the invasiveness of crazy laughter, went straight to Kit's brain, and relieved his unstable emotions through psychological counseling. Otherwise, he might need to work together with the origin essence to forcefully suppress him on the material level. Seeing that Kit's condition had stabilized, Aslan continued. "Also, please flip through the information in your hand. This is also the most different point of this game, due to the application from the Void and the joint letter from many of the old kings. This game will allow the participation of human forces, and they will also be included in the scope of the bet to fight against the outsiders with us. However, in the outer area, humans will be opposing us. The old kings can also place bets on them, and even put humans into a separate group. I don't need to say more about the competition here. According to my observations over the past few months, the re-evolved humans already have enough combat power and foundation through the fate system. During their time, there are at least 4 or even 5 mythical beings. According to reliable information, if the humans perform better than the hybrid demons during the game, their existence will be re-recognized, and they will be given a king-level title deed to protect their city, and even occupy the throne. At this point, because of Han Dong's recommendation, Hope, who had been mingling with the expeditionary army and sparring with the humans, suddenly spoke. There are many strong hidden among the humans. Their strength is quite terrifying. However, their character is quite good. Aslan revealed a smile and hurriedly asked, "Oh, Hope, you seem to know some inside information. Can you tell me more?" "There's a human knight called Charlie. He looks relatively young, about 30 years old. In the 13 times I sparred with him, he won 6 times and tied 3 times. However, he's not the strongest. There seems to be a captain above him. It should be the mythical being that you mentioned, Aslan. Have you seen the so-called captain?" "No, the captain doesn't seem to appear often. I only have more contact with Knight Charlie. I don't know much about the rest." Aslan slowly turned her gaze to Han Dong. "I think it's your recommendation that Hope can have a friendly sparring with the humans, right? Mr. Nicholas, can you tell me more about the humans?" "There are a total of 5 captains, and their strength level can indeed be classified as mythical. It's not convenient for me to disclose the specific information. I'm participating as the representative of London and Grimm's substitute. There's no need to report the details of the humans, right?" Aslan replied with a smile, "Of course. After all, you belong to the forces of the City of London, not the humans. It's enough to confirm that there are 5 mythical beings among the humans. The above information is enough to prove that the overall strength of the humans invited to the City of London is greater than any of our original forces. If the humans win the biggest victory during the game, our sense of existence will be greatly reduced, and more than one of you may have your title taken away. Therefore, I propose a proposal. I hope that everyone can join forces during the game and sign the joint battle agreement. Please remember, this is not an original game where you need to fight against each other, but a joint war against the outside world. I hope that everyone can put down the prejudice in your heart and join forces fully. While winning the war, you can also win the appreciation of the superiors. Please read the content of the agreement carefully. This is an agreement that I have made with full consideration of everyone's situation. The clauses are very broad and will not restrict your personal freedom or affect your personal performance in the game. It will only serve as a connection and promotion of cooperation. In addition, I hope that the City of London can support our work." After Aslan finished speaking, Han Dong immediately understood her intention. Taking the opportunity of Grimm's absence and using the humans as an excuse to establish a hybrid demon alliance. The agreement didn't seem to be very restrictive. If used properly, it would bring him a lot of benefits. Chapter 13:13 Joint Operations. The City of London will be the surface, and our forces and special buildings will be the point. This is a battle plan that has been customized. The plan will not have any restrictions on us primordial substance individuals. The core is allies sharing, which means that everyone's corresponding forces will be combined during the game period to form a whole, and according to the wartime situation and battle plan, appropriate regulation will be carried out. For the specific situation, please look carefully at the treaty. Currently, I have received the support of various mythical entities, and they have all left their own marks on the battle plan. Just as Aslan said, the back of the battle plan was branded with the marks of various mythical entities, including Sally's aunt Ingrid's hoofprints. At the same time, Aslan even made a very friendly expression and put his right arm beside him, which was the shoulder of the second primordial substance, Book of Wisdom, Pope. Also, I have discussed this matter with Pope in private in advance, and he is very supportive. Pope did not say anything, and only nodded slightly. Han Dong stared at the situation in front of him, and was completely sure of one thing in his heart. At the same time, he sent a message to Black Goat Sally. It seems that Aslan has done a lot of private work in the past few months, and even pulled Aunt Ingrid to his side in advance when you were not with the herd. As for why Pope supported it, it is most likely because of Grimm. This battle plan is obviously disadvantageous to Grimm, who acts alone. If Grimm was present, he would definitely not agree, and would even use his identity as the first primordial substance to forcefully reject it. I even suspect that Bop secretly pushed for this meeting to be brought forward. Sally's voice came. Pope will not take the initiative to help. However, you are right. Aslan has used Grimm to align Pope's interests with his, and smoothly promote the joint operation. Joint operations is extremely disadvantageous to Grimm. During the London game period, Grimm who acts alone will be reduced to the smallest force, and may even shake the foundation of the first primordial substance. The most annoying thing about Aslan is that he can seize everyone's interests. From the current situation, this joint operation has been tacitly approved. Nicholas, what do you think? It doesn't matter, it is nothing more than an alliance of forces. As long as Miss Sally isn't affected, it won't affect my plan. What I need is someone. As Aslan was unable to rope in an individual, she was forced to use such a method to rope in a group. When the game starts, Miss Sally will follow me. As for a flock, it doesn't matter if you use it or not. Okay, by the way, what does the person in charge mean? The speaker is equivalent to the leader of the 10 Great Origin Essence. This identity does not have much real power. It is only responsible for gathering everyone at critical moments and organizing meetings like this through communication with the higher-up. Aslan was chosen as the speaker in the previous Origin Essence game mainly because he didn't have any obvious conflicts with any Origin Essence and maintained a neutral state. At this moment, a third person's voice actually appeared in the mental channel established between Han Dong and Sally. What are you two talking about? Sally, are you talking to Nicholas again? As soon as this voice came out, Sally was so scared that her face turned pale. She immediately cut off the mental connection with Han Dong and sat in her seat without moving. Her 2 black goat legs were in a state where the hair on them stood on end. According to the serial number of the Origin Essence, Aslan, who was sitting next to Sally, also noticed the abnormality. He squinted his eyes and asked in a friendly manner, "Miss Sally, is there anything you are dissatisfied with about the joint operation? If there is, please raise it on the spot. After all, Miss Ingrid has already agreed." However, Sally said incoherently, "It's coming. What's coming?" At this moment, a crazy aura swept through the conference area. The Origin Essence all turned their heads in the direction of Han Dong. But this time, Sally didn't look over. She just stared blankly at the table. Aslan originally thought that Han Dong was deliberately causing trouble in the conference. However, when he looked at Han Dong's state, he immediately denied his thoughts. Aslan's special ability allowed him to sense the target's internal state. Han Dong's state was very bad. It didn't seem like he was faking it. Han Dong supported himself on the table with one hand and covered his abdomen with the other. While he was constantly gasping for breath, blue veins popped out all over his body. Gray tentacles with spots floated randomly under his skin. It even felt like they were about to drill out of his body. All of a sudden, in front of everyone, Han Dong spat out all kinds of strange internal organs and tentacles onto the ground. He kept feeling that something was about to drill out of Han Dong's body. It was a thing that could make everyone present feel fearful. Sizzle waves of steam that symbolized chaos constantly overflowed from Han Dong's body. It can't be. Yasilon had a very bad feeling. Papa and Vader, who were sitting close to Han Dong, had already moved their seats at the first moment. Their bodies also began to accumulate some kind of energy to prevent the sudden outbreak of dangerous situations. At this moment, someone actually took the initiative to go over. Evil Root, Kit, completely unafraid of Han Dong's strange situation and the crazy aura that was constantly increasing in concentration, he took the initiative to go over and try to give some help. "Nicholas, are you okay?" During the questioning, Kit even tried to place his right hand on Han Dong, using an ability that involved root to stabilize Han Dong's terrible state. Kit, come back. Pop predicted a kind of danger signal in advance. His finger drew a circle in the air, trying to directly teleport Kit away. Unfortunately, before the void could take shape, Pop, a hand firmly clasped Kit's arm, stopping him from touching Han Dong. This hand didn't come from Han Dong. Instead, it was a withered arm that grew out of Han Dong's ear hole. It was covered with scalp-numbing holes. Each finger-sized hole corresponded to an endless abyss. Apart from the arm, something else was continuing to squeeze out. Whoosh, a head with messy black hair wrapped in mucus also squeezed out. There was a feeling of bathing in new life. The lips wriggled. Blasphemous sounds that could easily cause people to fall into madness were coordinated through the voice canal covered with tentacles and the tongue full of holes. Kit, what are you doing? Why are you touching my family's Nicholas body? Kit didn't have the least bit of fear. Instead, he was somewhat excited. Oh, so it's Big Brother Glenn. Have you come to kill me? Unexpectedly, Glenn wasn't the least bit angry. Another arm covered in mucus stretched out from his ear hole and lightly touched Kit's head. No, why would I kill you? Besides, killing you would consume a lot of energy and I wouldn't get anything. It's not worth it at all. Go back and sit down. There's no problem here. Oh, Kit returned to his seat with a disappointed expression. The youth covered in mucus used Han Dong's ear as a hole and slowly crawled out. Crack, crack, crack when he landed. He moved every joint in his body to recover his mobility. It seemed that he had been trapped in Han Dong's body for a long time. Nicholas, you opened the door? No wonder the internal structure is completely different from before. I almost couldn't find the exit and almost suffocated to death. By the way, are you in a meeting? Did I come just in time? Ha! Glenn didn't reject Han Dong sitting in his seat in the slightest. He didn't even have the intention of driving Han Dong away. Instead, he moved his body and squeezed into the same chair as Han Dong. Chapter 13-14. The Prime sitting here more or less knew that Han Dong and Grimm had a certain connection. But they did not know how deep the connection was. With their understanding of Grimm, Grimm would never have any friends. A guy like Grimm, who had completely fallen into madness, or even a maniac himself, he would do things that went against common sense as his personality changed. He would even deliberately put himself at a disadvantage, and would not even care about any benefit. Even if he had a good relationship with his friends, he might kill them directly because of a sudden change in mood. There were many examples in the past where the guys who were close to Grimm were basically dead. It was also because of this that Second Prime, Pop, was completely opposed to Grimm. The scene in front of them was unacceptable to the Prime, including Pop. Grimm and this young man, with mixed human blood, had an unfathomable relationship. Not to mention that the young man was used as a medium to complete the transmigration. He was even willing to share his seat with the other party. One must know that this seat symbolized the throne of everyone in the future. According to Grimm's temper, he should have directly killed Han Dong, who sat on the seat without permission. This scene stunned many people. Only Sally did not dare to lower her head, not daring to look. Nicholas. Wait, there's still something that hasn't come out. For the past 1.5 years, I've put almost all of my energy into this matter. As he said, Grimm reached out again, as if he was picking Han Dong's ear. In fact, waves of crazy aura were constantly overflowing from inside. Due to the influence of the domain, Han Dong's ear hole turned into an abyss, and a weapon that followed Grimm was slowly being pulled out. This is? Han Dong also smelled a very familiar aura. It was the weapon that Grimm used when he fought against the Golden Saint, a weapon that had its own consciousness. Ms. Nail, Miss Lyle. Back then, its quality was Epic Plus, and it was in an incomplete state. Grimm spent 1.5 years using some materials obtained from the last game, the gift from his father, and the help of the top craftsman in the center of chaos to complete the weapon. Now, what was pulled out from Han Dong's earhole was a flawless weapon. 1. The hilt was a slender and white woman's forearm. 2. The Daoji is the palm of this arm. 3. The blade was forged in the abyss furnace by smelting 100 million carefully selected black fingernails and legendary chaotic materials. The black, cold, and slender blade seemed to correspond to Miss Lyle's graceful figure. When this black saber with self-consciousness appeared, several crystal-clear eyes opened on the surface of the saber and stared at everyone present. With the exception of Han Dong, everyone felt as if they had been slashed. Only Eugenius, with the help of the spear sealed in the sarcophagus, was able to block the consciousness attack. Legendary equipment. Everyone was shocked. This would mean that Grimm's overall strength would increase tremendously, and he would be almost invincible below the mythical level. Grimm took his seat as usual. Miss Lyle was in a floating state, leaning against the back of the chair. If anyone dared to offend her master, they would receive a terrifying slash from the abyss. At the same time, one of her eyes was also looking at the sarcophagus behind Eugenius, where the spear was sealed. "Brother Grimm, can you say hello before you come out next time? I'm not used to this." Han Dong wiped the vomit residue from the corner of his mouth and complained helplessly. Grimm looked apologetic and kept patting Han Dong on the shoulder. "Oh, Nicholas, your body structure has changed too much. The mark I left in your body last time has become blurred, so when I was teleported, I was lost in your body for a long time. The cave in your body is probably similar to a whirlpool-like maze, and it is full of the breath of the dead that was not there before. Door opening caused the abyss in your body to expand more than 10 times, and I was lost in it for at least 3 days. Anyway, you must have reached a very deep level, right? I can't wait to try it with you. How about we spar later? Don't worry, I won't use the strength of the weapon to suppress you. Miss Lyle is only responsible for watching the battle. We're still in a meeting, let's talk about it later." Han Dong was also helpless when he heard that they were going to spar. Although he had completely transformed, it was still risky to fight against Grimm. Meeting? Oh right. Grimm completely forgot about the meeting in front of him and only focused on chatting with Han Dong. He also came back to his senses and stared at the battle plan in front of him, not taking it seriously at all. This is the Primordial Conference, before the London game, right? What kind of useless battle plan is this again? You guys are really bored. I remember that Aslan was the one who was elected as the speaker last time. Hurry up and finish this useless nonsense. Brother Nicholas and I still have things to do. Okay. Aslan, who was always calm, was also confused by the sudden situation in front of him. Several questions that he couldn't figure out lingered in his mind. 1. Why did Grimm appear through Han Dong's body? 2. Why was the relationship between the two so good? Facing Nicholas' complaints, not only was Grimm not angry, he even took the initiative to explain. 3. Why was it that the two of them didn't feel out of place sitting together, and listening to Grimm's words, the two of them seemed to be equal in strength? Cough cough. Since Boss Grimm is here, please take a look at the battle plan. This plan needs everyone present to express their attitude. Just as he finished speaking, Grimm's pair of eyes with abyssal holes looked straight over. Do you think I'll participate? Aslan was a little embarrassed and quickly nodded. At the same time, because of Grimm's gaze, he immediately welcomed a kind of crazy devouring feeling. A few drops of sweat dripped down from the corner of his eyes. I also don't want to participate. So troublesome. At this time, Kit, who failed in his suicide attempt, also raised his hand to vote. However, Kit's corresponding forces were similarly uncontrollable. Aslan also didn't plan it into his plan. Then, except for Grimm and Kit, Joint operations will cover all the remaining primordial forces. Please sign on the battle plan and hand it over to me. The signed document will be. Nicholas, your body seems to have changed a lot. There's a kind of indescribable strange feeling, like touching water. Lift up your clothes, let me touch your abdomen. This feeling is indeed similar to the cave. It's this kind of black vortex feeling that made me lost for a long time. Grimm directly ignored the rules of the conference and made a racket. Aslan, who was forced to interrupt, could only hold back. However, Aslan was also very tactful. Since Grimm didn't say anything about the plan, he decisively ended the conference. Since Grimm had arrived, continuing the conference would only become more and more troublesome. Anyway, his goal had been achieved. The battle plan already had many primordial signatures. The joint operations could be successfully implemented. The land deed was closed. When everyone returned to the streets of London, because of the fear of Grimm and the discomfort of the madness, most of the primordial quickly left. Aslan also quickly returned, the iceberg that belonged to him alone. Looking at the street from afar, Grimm and Han Dong were in a state of having their arms around each other's shoulders. Their relationship was extremely intimate. What the hell is going on? Chapter 13-15. Lawrence's Black Shoe Bar. Due to its proximity to the iceberg, the neighborhood was bitterly cold. At Han Dong's suggestion, everyone came to a good bar to talk privately. In addition to Han Dong and Grimm, Sally and Hope also followed. Han Dong had originally intended to call upon Kit, the ninth essence. Kit refused decisively because he thought it was too troublesome and knew that Grimm wouldn't kill him. He continued to lock himself in the small dark room, thinking about his next suicide plan. In the private room, since Grimm insisted on sitting with Han Dong, Sally had no choice but to sit opposite Hopper. Gurgle Gurgle Grimm held a large boot-shaped glass and drank 2 gallons of blackberry wine in one gulp. Han Dong was afraid that the wine would leak out from the holes all over Grimm's body. Burp. A loud burp came from the holes near Grimm's throat. It tastes really good. As soon as he put down the glass, he put his arm on Han Dong's shoulder. One eye looked at Han Dong, and the other looked at Sally opposite him. When I got out of the cave just now, I heard you and Sally talking in private. You two seem to have gotten a lot closer. I think you've been staying in London all this time, right? Hey, can you tell me how many children you have altogether? Village level, town level, or city level? Are there any of your children in London? Can you let me see the quality of your children? If the quality is good, I also want to consider the issue of reproduction. Of course, if Miss Sally is busy here, I can go to the Black Goat in the previous essence body. That sister also seems to be very good, and her fertility is second to none. Anyway, I'm about to construct a myth, and this time the London game will give the last piece of the puzzle. Sally didn't have any shyness after all, she really wanted to do this. Han Dong also quickly explained. I've been busy opening the door for a year and a half, and there are still many things to do in the manor attached to London. I have no time to think about reproduction. Grimm's brain circuit changed very quickly, and he immediately said, Oh, right, open the door. By the way, do you want to spar later? I've been drilling holes in your body for a few days, and your body has changed significantly. I don't think that's a good idea. There are only 10 days left before the game officially opens. Moreover, the sparring between us can also be put into the game. Based on my understanding, the invaders this time will not only include blacksmith, but also guests from other worlds. Oh, that sounds interesting. Alright, when the time comes, let's see who can kill more. With Miss Lyle by my side, I should be able to kill some mythical bodies. The woman's arm was used as the handle of the long black sword, which was suspended beside Grimm at all times. Whenever Grimm mentioned her name, the sharp sound of nails rubbing against each other could be heard from the sword. Han Dong also took the opportunity to change the topic back to normal instead of continuing to talk about his body. First of all, Han Dong had a question that needed to be answered. Han Dong used the bishop's authority to sense the changes in London and its surroundings, but he did not find any forces related to Grimm. Green, your forces haven't arrived yet? Hearing this question, Glenn revealed a sweet smile. He opened his arms and took the initiative to show Han Dong his body that was full of holes. We're here. They're all in my body. Why, do you want to go in and have a look? When Han Dong tried to peek inside with his magic eye, crazy scenes immediately rushed into his brain, and blood spurted out from his nose. Since even Father values this game so much that he did not hesitate to leave the palace and go to the casino, I naturally have to bring a group of people who are completely integrated with madness. With London as the stage, we will put on the craziest play. Speaking of this, Grimm made a polite gesture of invitation and stretched out his hand in front of Han Dong. Nicholas, would you like to act in this play with me? The seemingly crazy invitation actually came from Grimm's initiative. This was what Han Dong wanted, so naturally, he would not refuse. He reached out and gently placed his hand on Grimm's palm. The scene in front of him could even be used as a painting to symbolize the friendship between humans and hybrid demons, and be preserved in the Holy City Museum. Hominoid Hopper, who was sitting opposite, also showed an extremely envious expression. He hoped so much that he could form such a relationship with Grimm. Sally only gave a silent comment. Two lunatics. At this time, Grimm suddenly remembered something that he had promised Han Dong. That's right. The game is the game. When the time comes, we will kill the enemy however they come. There is nothing to discuss. Nicholas, about the Destiny Guide that we talked about last time, have you thought about it? Well, wait until the game is over. I will take you to the Destiny space, and I have obtained a special pass, corresponding to higher difficulty and greater opportunities. Higher difficulty? How high? Grimm's interest was immediately aroused, and his fingers madly drilled holes in his body. The difficulty of accidentally killing all of us. Compared to the invasion of the hybrid demon world, Grimm wanted to go to the Destiny space that he had never been to before and see what interesting and dangerous things there were. Sally, Hopper, you two will come with me, right? Okay. Hopper patted his chest and agreed on the spot. Sally just nodded silently. Right, Brother Grimm. How about this guy Kit? Do you want to pull him in? Hearing this name, Green's brows slightly furrowed. Kit? That's right, this guy seems to have some connection with you. He even wanted to touch your body before. To tell the truth, Kit is a rare individual that can interest me. Even I don't have much confidence in being able to suppress him. Once we fall into an unstable state, we will be in a very troublesome situation. Since it is my first time going to Destiny, I want to experience more interesting things. I don't want to die as soon as I go, that would be too boring. Okay, then we will think about it when the time comes. If there is no suitable candidate, just the four of us will be enough. Since I am willing to be your guide, I hope Brother Grimm can promise me one thing. Grimm acted like a big brother, tightly hugging Han Dong's shoulder. Whatever it is, just say it, I won't make things difficult for you. Han Dong explained the situation of the human expeditionary force in one breath. This point had to be made clear to Grimm, otherwise, with Grimm's strange personality, it could bring great trouble to the humans. Okay, I promise you. I won't take the initiative to cause trouble for them. Of course, if some humans make me feel bad, this will be a headache. When the time comes, I hope Nicholas can understand, I will do my best to leave the corpse intact. Han Dong nodded. Grimm being able to give such an answer was completely in line with his expectations. Speaking of which, Grimm, where do you plan to live for the next few days? I still have a lot of empty rooms in my manor. Would you be interested in living there? Your manor? Oh, is that the subsidiary title deed that I rewarded you last time? Okay, but I don't really want to live in an empty room, it would be too boring to live alone. Do you have an extra bed in your room? As soon as he said this, sitting across from him, Sally was already sweating profusely, silently praying that Han Dong would refuse Grimm's proposal. I do. Unexpectedly, Han Dong didn't even think about it, and cheerfully answered. Okay then. I will live at your place for the next few days. I was just about to discuss the topic of madness with you. Your madness attribute is completely different from mine, since you have already opened the door, you must have glimpsed the corresponding truth. Maybe it can have a stabilizing effect on my mythical puzzle. Chapter 13:16. Nicholas, is this your manner? Not bad. The chaos index is several times higher than other areas of the same level. When Grimm stepped into the manor, he immediately gave a high evaluation. As he walked to the central mansion, Grimm carefully observed everything in the manor and noticed many new things that he had never seen before. Oh? Sally and Hope are both staying with you. Well, Hope lives in the next room, Sally and I live together. You two live together and you don't have any offspring? Do you have a low fertility rate? Speaking of which, it shouldn't be too crowded if I live here. If there isn't much space, I can live in your body. It's enough, it's enough. Han Dong looked helpless. For some reason, Han Dong faintly felt that Grimm seemed to be more concerned about him after his return this time. Lord's room. Knock, knock, knock. Han Dong knocked on the wooden door. Immediately, there was a burst of patter, sound of wet feet on the ground. When the door opened, the familiar long legs appeared in front of everyone. However, the owner of the long legs was so scared that her whole body was oozing water the moment she opened the door. Her feet were covered with water stains, and her body was still trembling. Meritus was completely scared out of her wits. The scene in front of her was something that 99% of the hybrid demons in the world would never see. In addition to Han Dong, there were also 3 hybrid demons that symbolized the strongest atavism stage at the door, and one of them even came from the center of madness. Nicholas, you actually hid a toad demon in the room. I remember. Last time, you used the characteristics of this void toad to improve your understanding of space through the method of integration in your body. Although it's still a lot worse than Pop, you're already proficient in space technique. This toad demon is indeed relatively pure, with almost no impurities. It's a relatively high-quality void toad. Seeing that Meritus was completely scared out of her wit, Black Goat Leg stepped into the room first. Sally entered the room, grabbed Meritus' arm, and temporarily took her away. Using a unique domain effect, she eased Meritus' mental state. Sister Mary, it's okay. Grimm came with good intentions, you'll get used to it, Sally said with a face of concern. Oh, okay. She had heard too many terrifying rumors about Grimm, so it was reasonable for her to be frightened. On Han Dong's side, seeing that Sally was taking care of Meritus, he felt a little more at ease. As Green had said, Mary's spatial ability was very pure. In this battle, she would continue to act as a battery, providing Han Dong with spatial perception and energy transmission. Intimacy was very important, which was why Han Dong had kept her by his side all this time. Before the fireplace, Han Dong and Glenn sat in the single-seater sofa on both sides of the room and looked at each other. Sally lay on the couch in the middle, using Meritus's leg as a pillow. Hope, on the other hand, stood behind Grimm like a bodyguard. This kind of scene was not common. Han Dong specially separated an eyeball to record the scene. Afterwards, he would make it in the form of an oil painting and hang it in the main hall of the mansion. You're quite comfortable here. The only thing missing is crazy decoration. Nicholas, how do you usually practice crazy? Don't you need to do some crazy programs or go crazy through wanton killing? Han Dong pointed to his brain. About crazy, I usually train directly in my brain. Sure enough, not only do we have different attributes of crazy, but also different growth patterns. Nicholas, can you talk about the crazy truth you learned during the opening of the door, or your own understanding of it? Okay. That was it. They didn't care that there were other people in the room. The two lunatics started a discussion about crazy. At first, everyone could barely understand. Gradually, even Sally felt her ears buzzing and was very uncomfortable. Meritus had been stunned for a long time. Her eyes were blank, and the sofa under her was completely soaked. However, everyone could barely make out a conclusion. Grimm's crazy leaned toward invasion, self-harm, and slaughter. Han Dong's crazy leaned toward control, leadership, and encouragement. The two kinds of craziness were not only repellent to a certain extent, but also complementary to a certain extent. After this conversation, Sally could more or less understand why Grimm, who had always been cruel and incomprehensible, treated Han Dong so differently from before. It's not just the similarity and complementarity of attribute. When facing Grimm, the only guy who can be so calm and even dare to directly refute some of his views should be Nicholas. The only confidant? After a few hours of conversation, both of them gained some understanding of crazy, and some of the views put forward by Han Dong came from crazy theory. Not only did they get Grimm's approval, but the holes on Grimm's body also resonated from time to time. At the end of the conversation, after waiting for more than an hour at the door, the manor messenger dared to gently knock on the door. When he stared at the scene in the room, his feathers were constantly trembling. Lord, there's a letter from a human for Lord Hopper. Looking for Hopper. Han Dong was a little surprised. He didn't expect Hopper to be so familiar with the human's relationship in the past few months. When the letter was opened, Hopper showed a hesitant expression. Hopper, what's the matter? Hopper answered honestly, it's a letter from Knight Charlie, inviting me to participate in an elite knight skill exchange. Since Boss Grimm is back, I'd better stay here. Unexpectedly, Grimm turned his head and asked curiously, what level of human is looking for you? Elite Knight is the level standard set by humans, corresponding to our atavistic body. During this time, under the recommendation of Mr. Nicholas, I often exchanged pointers with them and learned a lot about skills. This sentence immediately aroused Grimm's curiosity. Can a human of the same level withstand your power? Yes, there are a few humans who came to London this time who are really powerful. This elite knight named Charlie should be able to reach the original level. That's interesting. Grimm was bored because there were no crazy gatherings or killing parties in the manor. This immediately piqued his interest. Nicholas, why don't you just let us go with Hopper and play with this group of elite knights? This sentence made Han Dong sweat profusely. For a moment, he couldn't find a suitable excuse to refuse. Grimm immediately added, don't worry, since it's something I promised you, I will naturally abide by it. I promise I won't kill at will. It's just for fun. Chapter 13-17. Let Grimm come into contact with humans in advance. This was something that Han Dong wanted to try, but he did not dare to try. Grimm not only represented the first prime, but he could also represent the hybrid demon race that stood at the top to a certain extent. If something unpleasant happened while they were in contact with humans, it might affect the overall development of the human race in the future. In the worst-case scenario, it might even cause the great expedition to fall short of success. However, the current situation could not be avoided, and Han Dong had to try his best to coordinate. Skill exchange gathering. During the expeditionary army's stay in London, they had not been idle. With the help of the god of technology, an area dedicated to combat and training was built in the open underground area of the eastern city. The core arena could even carry out a 1-3 spatial expansion, and it could withstand extremely strong battle impact. Today, about 30 elite knights gathered here. There was not much time left before the game started, and everyone was not here to train their abilities. The main purpose was to cooperate. During the war, a group of elite knights might be needed to form a spearhead team to launch a surprise attack on the enemy's important stronghold. The tacit understanding between each other was extremely important. Therefore, Charlie also wrote a letter to Hopper, hoping that he could come over and pretend to be a powerful enemy general and try to simulate a battle. What Charlie did not expect was that this personal letter actually invited a powerful enemy army. A stable space passage provided by Meritus. Everyone was teleported to the entrance of the underground training ground. Mr. Hopper, we have been waiting for you for a long time. Who are these people? It was somewhat ironic. The night guards here recognized Hopper first and did not recognize Han Dong, who was wearing a bird's mask. Han Dong had to take out his elite knight waist tag and explain. We are all here to participate in the skill exchange. Well, Commander Charlie has informed you in advance. You can go down directly. Mr. Hopper has been there many times, so I don't need to lead the way. Hopper, who looked simple and honest, even gently put his hand on the guard's shoulder when he walked through the small door. He was very friendly. Han Dong looked back at this scene and felt very warm. This was what he wanted. After experiencing the London game, humans and hybrid demons could live in harmony. He followed the stairs to the large training ground at the bottom level. Knight Charlie, who had a large bald patch on his head, was the first to look at the door when he sensed the aura. Hope you're here. And Nicholas and... When he tried to sense the aura of the other two mysterious people, Charlie was so scared that his whole body trembled, and he suddenly stood up from his seat. The elite knights gathered here also sensed the aura and focused their eyes on the door. Han Dong took off his bird mask and tried his best to explain in a calm manner. Greetings, seniors. I heard that Hopu is coming to participate in the skills exchange. It just so happened that I had a few other Origin souls with me, so I took the initiative to bring everyone here. Allow me to introduce him to you. This was the fourth prime substance from the Black Forest, Sally Love. And this one from Chaos. Han Dong was not done with his introduction. Grimm immediately took off his hood and scanned the elite knights with his eyes that were born with abyssal holes. As expected, it was not bad. A few of them had already completed the puzzle and were only one step away from the mythical stage. It seemed that today's skill exchange would be very interesting. Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher J. Grimm. I look forward to getting along with everyone. Grimm restrained his madness and even imitated the human etiquette, making a gentlemanly gesture. As soon as this name came out, many of the knights present immediately felt a heavy pressure, and their foreheads were already covered in sweat. Charlie immediately contacted Han Dong through telepathy. Nicholas, what's going on? Why are the first and fourth Origin Essence here as well? Did you arrange for this? When the letter was delivered, everyone was gathered together. Grimm suggested that we come together. That's his personality, I can't stop him. However, Grimm has promised me that he will receive humans normally. Try to satisfy his request. If we can get Grimm's favor, it will greatly promote the human cause. What request? Let him have fun. Arrange for the strongest knight to have a skill exchange with him. Strongest. Han Dong's meaning was to let Charlie go directly, and at the same time, throw the burden of promoting the human cause to him. If I knew, I wouldn't have written the letter. This is so troublesome. Sigh. By the way, did you come into contact with the first prime in advance? Compared to Hopper, how much stronger is he? It's not a matter of how much stronger. Each prime has its own strength. However, Grimm's characteristics are the most troublesome. In the case of using weapons, he should be able to go head-to-head with a mythical being. TSK. Charlie scratched his head helplessly. There was not much hair left on top of his head. At this time, Grimm spoke again. I heard from Hopper that you have someone here who can fight him to a standstill. I want to try, As soon as the words came out, the knights present all looked at Charlie. Grim teleported in front of Charlie and examined his body. He even put his nose on it and sniffed back and forth. "Oh, is that you? I can smell several kinds of scents in your body. You're not far from mythical. Can we start now? I'm really curious about what a human with strength comparable to a prime would be like." To be honest, I'm really excited. Although Charlie was very helpless, he could only force a smile and accept the challenge. However, Charlie's thoughts were also changing rapidly. Since there were so many primes here, why not make good use of them? His mind was also thinking of a plan. "Come on, let me prepare a little. Nicholas, how about you be the referee?" Okay. The training ground was expanded. It was expanded to the largest area with the largest ratio of 1:3. Everyone retreated to the side of the field and activated the corresponding barriers to avoid being affected. Grim had already taken off his jacket, revealing his upper body that was full of holes. By completely twisting his torso and limbs, he was doing a set of preparatory exercises that exceeded the limits of human joints. There was no intention of using weapons. Charlie also took off his heavy knight armor. He was very clear that against such an opponent, armor was basically useless. It would only slow down the speed. Han Dong, who was regarded as the referee, had already activated his magic eye. "Ready. Begin." As Han Dong waved his arm, Charlie's 10 fingers began to work together. The amplitude and strength of each finger were different. His fingertips pulled the silver wires. 10 puppets, that were made from different materials and pieced together using fate to refine them, all went toward Grim. They also formed a kind of battle formation with each other. Rashomon. The puppets had a battle formation that could greatly weaken the opponent's defense, launching a rapid attack. Blades, halberds, music, poison stingers, buzz. Just as these attacks were about to reach Grim, there was a slight tremor in time and space. Under the circumstances where most people did not see clearly, limbs scattered everywhere, wood splashed everywhere. 10 puppets were broken to varying degrees and scattered all over the ground. In the next second, Grim was already in front of Charlie. He said with a disappointed face, "Is that all you've got? How disappointing. To think that I wasted my time coming here out of curiosity." Suddenly, "I'm not in a good mood." Grim grabbed Charlie's head. He did not care about his life and smashed it to the ground with all his might. Crack, the sound of a skull breaking? No, it sounded more like the sound of machinery breaking. Grim took a closer look. He was actually holding a smashed puppet in his hand. Strange, his aura did not change, and the touch that I just caught was clearly flesh. What's going on? Just as Grim was staring at the broken puppet on the ground and scratching his head due to puzzlement, a black shadow that was reassembled from broken limbs had already stuck behind him. The eyes that emitted red light revealed an extremely terrifying killing intent, a rather primitive desire to kill. Some kind of strange and sharp weapon with runes popped out from between the arms and locked onto Grim's neck. Just as it was about to behead him, the black shadow seemed to realize something and decisively withdrew the attack. Then, he pulled his body through the silver wires and pulled away. Grim turned his head 180 degrees and stared at Knight Charlie's true body, that was pieced together from limbs. He asked curiously, Why didn't you make a move when you had such an opportunity just now? My intuition told me that if I beheaded you just now, the one who would die would be me. Although I can't understand the principle, I trust my intuition more. You are very good. Chapter 13:18. Grim's eyes lit up because of Knight Charlie's wonderful performance. His evaluation of humans also rose sharply, and he even remembered some of the conversations he once had with a certain uncle in the Mad Abyss. Grim said happily, "It's really strange. You actually resisted such a good opportunity just now. Is intuition really so magical? Let's continue, come and kill me. Just as Grimm turned around and wanted to continue the battle with this interesting puppet knight, Charlie made a stop gesture. Mr. Grimm, I have a proposal that should be more interesting than the competition between us. Since there are 3 prototypes here, I want to take this opportunity to simulate a battle. The 3 of you and Nicholas will be a team, and we will choose 4 people as a raid team to simulate a small-scale encounter. This kind of simulation will be good for us to prepare for the upcoming London game. What do you think? Hearing such a proposal, Grimm slowly withdrew his fighting posture. Sounds good. But just 4 human knights, isn't it a little too little? Other human knights shouldn't be as powerful as you, right? How about this, move the venue outside London, and let us find a stronghold first. Then, a total of 32 elite knights here will form a tactical team to launch an attack on us. No matter what kind of attack it is, it's okay. And I have a condition, everyone must have the mentality to kill, otherwise it will be boring. This kind of simulation will be the appetizer of the London game, it's quite good. Okay. This was a once-in-a-lifetime training opportunity. With 3 prototypes simulating the enemy, the intensity of the battle might be higher than the encounter in the London game. Grimm put up a finger. 1 hour to prepare. When the time comes, you can come directly. Remember to use your life-saving means. I have an agreement with Nicholas in advance to try not to kill anyone as much as possible. Come on and get ready, human knights. I'm really looking forward to what kind of tactics you will use to kill us. With Han Dong's spatial secret spell, without any restrictions, they went straight to the outside of London to find a stronghold that was easy to defend and hard to attack. Han Dong could see it. Not only was Grimm very interested in this matter, but Sally and Hope also faintly revealed a kind of interest. In the training ground, Charlie brushed his hair to cover as much of his bald spot as possible. A fair-skinned man who looked like an elf was chanting a hymn to get rid of the madness that permeated this place, as well as the corruption that the hybrid demons carried. It should be mentioned that the origin substance had very precise control over itself, and the friendly sparring just now had been carried out in the form of a human, with only a small amount of contamination being released. Everyone should have clearly seen my fight with the first origin form just now. If we continue to fight, there is a high probability that I will lose or even die. Those who want to give up on the simulation can leave now. I will find suitable substitutes from other armies. However, no one left the scene. In fact, the elite knights who could gather here for special training all had a certain amount of weight in the knight regiment. Among them, other than a pervert like Charlie, there was another person that Han Dong knew. Due to the complexity of the situation and the fact that he had to act as a referee, Han Dong didn't recognize the knight wrapped in armor. Lucius, you just completed the opening of the Minano city. Are you sure you want to participate? Nicholas has already mingled to the point where he can travel with the origin substance. What reason do I have not to participate? He took off his helmet. A handsome, resolute face with a hint of evilness was revealed. Blood Knight, Lucius, the genius knight who got involved with Han Dong due to the incident at Stuart Manor, the runner-up of the last night election, belonged to the Scarlet Knights. Or with your ability, it should be no problem. Charlie changed his style of wanting to slack off and get off work early. He took on the responsibility of a commander and formulated a surprise attack plan for the simulation battle. Hope often sparred with us here. His terrifying strength can suppress all of us, and his physical strength and self-healing ability are also beyond the scope of the same level. Not to mention the Black Goat and Mad Devil, who are ranked ahead of him, their individual strength is extremely terrifying. In the face of such an enemy, conventional battle plans won't work. We need a spear that can threaten the origin form. Do your best to completely suppress the 3 powerful origin entities and Nicholas. outside London, compared to the knights who were nervously making arrangements. The four here seemed unusually relaxed, and they had not even thought about which area to choose as a stronghold. Nicholas, you decide. I hate thinking about things like this the most. Why don't we go further out? If a battle breaks out in the London Basin or the Dark Forest, it will cause unnecessary trouble. I also need to inform Mother in advance. If it's outside the jurisdiction of London, it doesn't matter what you do. But try not to go too far. Don't worry, they won't die. If they accidentally die, I'll throw them into the abyss. Maybe they can be revived under the influence of madness. Under the lead of Han Dong, they went north through the dark forest. Unexpectedly, at the bottom of a secluded valley, they saw the ruins of a village. A large number of stone buildings were well preserved. The back of the village was also connected to a man-made cave, which was very suitable for a stronghold. Grim was very satisfied with the choice of the venue, nodding and commenting. This place is pretty good. When the time comes, we can lead all the human knights who ambushed us to the back cave and kill them all. No, defeat them all. However, when Sally stepped into the village, she smelled a trace of something wrong. Strange, this village is very intact, and it's not more than 50 kilometers away from London. Such an area should be used as a gathering place for pagans, or turned into a sentinel by the dark dwellers. No matter how remote it is, it should be occupied by some low-end evil. But there is no life at all here. Nicholas, can you check the files of London's suburbs? See what's the situation here? The information of the suburbs can only be accessed by London. It's a bit strange when you say that. However, the London game is imminent. Is it possible that London let the hybrid demons on the outer sentinels withdraw in advance, which led to the emptiness here? If there were hybrid demons stationed here, at least there would be some remnants of life left. But when my domain spread out, there was no feedback at all. Well, pay attention to it a little. After saying that, Han Dong stretched out his left arm, which was emitting death aura, and his palm automatically formed a seal. Call one after another, black crows charged with death magic flew out. Each of the crows had a whirlpool in their eyes. They were all connected to Han Dong and had inherited the whirlpool eye attribute. More than a dozen crows scattered in different places of the village, secretly observing everything here. Han Dong and others gathered in the best-preserved church, quietly waiting for the arrival of the knights. Chapter 13-19. Grim was lying leisurely on the church bench, waiting for the knights to attack. He didn't think about setting up barriers or traps at all. He just wanted the human knights to attack as soon as possible, hoping to give him an unexpected surprise. Hominoid Hopper also followed and sat obediently to the side. Only Han Dong and Sally were searching the rooms inside the church, trying to get some information about the village. A large number of books have been torn or their important pages have been torn off. The murals and words carved on the walls have also been covered. It's indeed suspicious. Also, from the chisel marks on the walls, it can be estimated that this place should have been abandoned less than a year ago. Just as you said, Sally, the aura shouldn't have completely disappeared in such a short time. Why don't I hurry back to London and check if there are any records about this village? At this moment, Sally found a strange wall brick. It seemed to be firmly stuck by something inside. Unable to press with her palm, she directly raised a black sheep's hoof. Boom! The church shook. The wall brick was directly crushed into powder. A bone fragment stuck in the depths fell out. Strangely, this bone fragment only bent slightly after being crushed by Sally's sheep's hoof. What is this? Metal or bone? Sally held the bone-like material in her hand and examined it back and forth. She thought of some of the mantis demons that were more prominent in the bone aspect, but she couldn't match it. Let me see. Han Dong reached out and took the bone fragment, observing it with his magic eye. One, very hard. The ratio and arrangement of its cells and minerals were different from that of humans. It even felt that the cells formed a stabilizing array in the bone fragment. 2. The bone fragment seemed to have just been separated from a living body and didn't lack nutrients at all. 3. Unable to penetrate. Han Dong's tentacles couldn't directly penetrate the bone fragment like normal. He could only try to deconstruct and destroy it. Wait a moment. Han Dong immediately threw the bone fragment into the brain laboratory and analyzed it with the help of the instrument. In addition to its strong hardness, the bone fragment also contained a kind of energy that didn't exist in the system database. It was temporarily named Sin by the instrument. Unknown bone. There is no corresponding species recorded in the current brain database. This isn't the bone of a creature in our world? Could it be that in the last London game, a Saint-level craftsman encountered an abnormality during the teleportation and was teleported here while crossing planes? He killed all the villagers here and then went into hiding? Han Dong temporarily put away the bone fragment. He looked at the wall that had been shattered by Sally's kick. There was an abandoned and broken metal mechanism hidden in the hoof-shaped groove. The control stick is damaged. Han Dong had no choice but to grow fangs at the tip of his fingers and firmly grip the internal gears to rotate. Ka, accompanied by the sound of old machinery, a secret passage leading underground was slowly opening. A seal that Han Dong had never seen before was broken. At the same time, Glenn seemed to have smelled something unusual. His voice came from the church hall. The knights will be here in a few minutes. What are you doing? I'll be done soon. Anything that had to do with Grimm would often become very complicated. Han Dong casually found an excuse and brought Sally down to check out the situation. With their strength, even if it was a more troublesome situation, they would be able to deal with it. It was very deep. The cellar was about 50 meters deep. The air was filled with the smell of sin. It was probably a smell that would make one feel a faint pain. The scene in the cellar was even more eye-opening. It was indeed very painful. Inside the cellar, hundreds of human skeletons were hung by ropes. The characteristics were as follows. 1. From the knife marks on the surface of the bones, it was basically certain that the bones were not formed by natural causes, but were scraped into bones while they were still alive. 2. Each skeleton carried a black stone tablet engraved with words that Han Dong could not understand. At the same time, it also exuded a streamlined dark aura. 3. The skeletons held a small carving knife in their hand. This is not the style of a saint-level world. The craftsmen in the saint-level world were inclined to the front, so their ability would have a suppressive effect on the fiends. What happened here was an extremely evil event. The stone tablet behind the skeleton exuded a sin aura similar to the bone fragment. In other words, someone could carry out such an evil and cruel thing under the eyes of the city of London. These skeletons should correspond to the pagans belonging to London. Such a large number of skeletons were scraped, and no one in London knew? Even if it was an unimportant small village, it could still be considered a place of faith. Occasionally they would send people to take a look. At this moment, a demonic voice came from within his body. Togu, who was obsessed with suffering and even treated it as food, had a different view of the situation in front of him. Master, these people were not brutally killed. They committed suicide. Han Dong frowned and quickly asked, "Why do you say that? I also had a bone-scraping project in the Hell Monastery, but it was not so thorough. It was often scraped to the point where the meat could grow back. I used to like this project more. I could tell at a glance that they were scraping their own bones." Hiss, when he received the important information provided by Togu, Han Dong sucked in a breath of cold air. Staring at the horrifying scene in front of him, Han Dong could faintly smell that something was not right. This might be related to the London game. When Han Dong tried to use his perception to search the entire cellar, However, he was blocked by the aura of sin. The sin steel on the skeletons' backs actually had a shielding effect. The numerous sin steels formed a shielding field that could not be invaded by the outside world. Count! Following Han Dong's shout, the scarlet bloodhound stepped in the cellar, its blood-red dog mane fluttering in the air. Since the perception field was ineffective, he had to borrow Count's sense of smell. Sniffing his nose that was crowded with olfactory tentacles, Count immediately searched for the area with the heaviest smell. During this time, the surface of his body was also covered with canine teeth. Count also faintly felt that something was not right. He had never seen anything like this before. They passed by the skeletons. A compartment hidden in the depths of the cellar appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The smell wafting from inside made Count very uncomfortable. However, the compartment was also sealed by a stone similar to the sin steel. The surface was engraved with densely packed words, exuding a strong aura of sin. Han Dong tried and found that the structure of this array was completely different from what he had seen before. He could not perfectly crack it. If little brother Demps was here, he might be able to do it. At present, he could only forcibly crack it and see what secrets were hidden inside. Sally! Han Dong had just called out. The long black leg of a lamb was already kicked out. Sally's lamb's hooves were not a simple physical attack. The crushing power contained within came from an ancient secret technique in the Black Forest. This kick directly kicked a big hole in the stone door. However, the power of sin sealed in the stone door crazily spread out because of Sally's kick. It was like threads drilling into the sin steel on the skeletons' backs, fully activating it. At the same time, a dark cloak appeared out of nowhere and was directly placed on the skeletons' bodies. The dark hood covered their skulls and turned into a kind of otherworldly life form called sinful spirits. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.